and joined in studio by Michelle Chai.
Hello, welcome everybody watching from your homes to the different organizing centers and collective watch parties across the country. Um, we are live. Okay.
Okay.
So again, welcome to everybody watching from your home. If you've been sending in your donations, getting statements, we thank you ahead of time, and you'll also be hearing
Sorry, I'm
this is
dropping
all
my
happening
glasses.
live, people. So so we are aiming today to raise,
Our goal
part,
for this live stream is $20,000.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. A part of the 30,000 by September 30th, for nationally for the RevCom core and our ability to be able to be out in the front lines in this intense moment, right, where the future of humanity is literally you know, on the balance, and millions of people that are deeply agonizing about seeing the horrific situation in which now we are dealing with a fascist, open fascist, white supremacist regime that's like barreling through, all the gains, all the rights that people have won, that are aiming to reverse all of that back with a vicious, revenge against, people that they deem illegitimate, and so the struggle over defeating that regime from our standpoint, which is, to fight for a fundamentally different system, a whole new world and a fundamentally different system. And, and our, and getting the voice of the revolutionary leader, Bob Avakian, from these social media messages where he gives real-time leadership and guidance for how to understand what we're confronting, how to go about transforming it, what we have to go and, challenge and struggle with, the ways of thinking that keeps people locked within the ways that, that the system tells people they're just supposed to go along with this and accept this, or give up your hands because there's no other way that we can do anything about this. Well, we're breaking through all of that and being on the front lines of that, with that leadership, with that understanding, with the analysis of what we are confronting and how we can defeat it. That is what we are raising funds for today, to for our ability, not just, to be able to meet that, but expand that ability even more so in this very intense period that holds a lot of potential, both very dangerous and negative potential, but also very positive and emancipating potential.
Yeah, and I'm very glad to be here with you, Michelle, and with everyone tuning in. Just real quick, for people who are tuning in for the first time, if you're not sure what this is all about, the RevComs are a serious force. We're revolutionary communists fighting to bring a whole new world into being in a fundamentally different system. And you mentioned we base ourselves on the revolutionary leadership of Bob Avakian, who's the architect of a new stage of communist revolution. And he is, for the last year and a half, has been doing these social media messages. You're going to see an illustrated one later in this episode, and we're going to watch a section of an interview from Bob Avakian that was done in January of this year. He's providing real-time leadership, like you're talking about, for people to actually act commensurate with the extreme danger of the situation we face, being able to wrench out real revolutionary openings. So you'll let us know if there's a technical problem. Okay, yes, thank you. Sorry, you can keep going. Sorry, everybody. Like we said, we're live.
It's all happening live.
It's all happening live. Okay, so I think we should start this fun drive. You're tuning in because you're watching a national live stream. People all across the country, if you're tuning in, like you said, if you're donating, you are part of a national movement. You are part of a community of people who are giving, making a sacrifice for a better world. And you're going to hear in this live stream, we should say that, you're going to hear from people on the ground. Just yesterday, I did interviews with people on the ground who are leading the RevCom Corps for the emancipation of humanity nationally in Chicago. You're going to hear from each other because we're getting statements in from people who are donating about why they're donating. And you're going to hear from the revolutionary leader, Bob Avakian, and much, much more. So lock in, stay tuned.
Begin, getting this, sharing this live stream, share it with everybody. People get on the phones, when we're gonna start very soon with a matching, donation. And this is going to be the time for everybody in the organizing centers and at the Revolution books that are watching this live stream together. Now is the time to pull out your phone, start texting people, start getting on the phone and calling them. Hey, there's a matching donation, like listen to the statement and get it out to other people. Can they be part of matching that donation? But one thing I wanted to say was the video that we started the live stream with was a contribution from a volunteer with the national social media team, right? And
okay, we will show.
Okay. So what they're telling us is that we actually did not start the live stream with the video, but we are gonna play. I think this will be a good
let's do it.
Time to go to the video, which is from a volunteer with the national social media team. So let's go to that.
What is it that makes you so upset about it right now? I've seen a lot of this race, but I know that you earlier just being really predictable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm upset because this is outrageous. This is fascism. This is America. They have no, the Marines and National Guard has no right to be kidnapping human beings who have done nothing wrong. These are not criminals. The real criminals are in the White House. And we have to come together from our many different perspectives to demand that Trump must go now.
We are serious about working together for the greater good of defeating fascism, and we are also serious about making a real emancipating revolution. If you want to be part of a disciplined revolutionary force, I want you for the RevCom Corps for the emancipation of humanity. So come find us, come talk to the RevCom Corps for the emancipation of humanity.
Okay, so welcome back. So why don't you tell people what they just watched?
So this was a video from a volunteer with the national social media team. And this is, people that are coming together, that are actually working on having this kind of impact through social media and, and showing people what it is that the RevCom Corps are actually doing on, and down in the ground, right? As I said, when I began this, being on the front lines, and actually getting guests in front of like national media, putting forward the analysis and understanding that nobody else is putting forward in this moment about, changing the terms of how people are seeing the situation. When these fascists go out and call people illegals and criminals and all this, having the voices of the RevCom Corps actually speaking to the reality that no, actually, that's not what's happening here, and that these attacks and these illegitimate assault on people's basic rights and their humanity comes from, this fascist regime that came out of this system, that all of that understanding and all of that analysis and bringing to people what's needed, as you heard, one of the people in the RevCom Corps on national TV talking about the people need to come together to demand that Trump must go now. These are the voices and the work that the RevCom Corps are getting out, right now in this crucial moment, and being able to have people, that are, that have this kind of, ability to do these kinds of videos. I personally cannot do those kinds of videos, but yeah.
And we'll talk about the social media and the way it worked that we're doing in that regard just in a little bit. But I want to just let people know we're working overtime to tally the numbers. But in terms of what we're trying to raise today, we have so far raised a little over $9,000. Like I said, we're working to tally the numbers right now. And that means we have to raise over $10,000 in today's broadcast. And then in the next week, 10,000 more to meet this urgent goal, $30,000 by September 30th. And that's the bare minimum of what's needed. Now the numbers are now on your screen. And that's the bare minimum of the numbers that are needed, of the funds that are needed to support the revolutionary forces, the RevCom volunteers, the work of the RevComs nationally, that are providing this understanding and organizing forces all across the country. We're about to read a matching challenge that came in, a very inspiring one. But I want to say one other thing about the work that the RevCom Corps for the Emancipation of Humanity, the RevComs, and what you're concretely giving to is the national tour to get organized for an actual revolution. One of the most important things we're doing right now is throwing all in to the fight to defeat fascism. And concretely, that means organizing for millions to amass in DC beginning November 5th to demand that the Trump fascist regime must go now. And this has been called for, initiated by Refuse Fascism, a coalition of people from different perspectives. It's open to everyone and open to all. And they are calling, like I said, for millions, for this to be the biggest mass nonviolent mobilization and convergence in the history of this country, in this nation's capital, beginning November 5th, flooding DC and not stopping until Trump is removed. And then we come from our understanding, like you're saying, Michelle, that this fascism comes out of this system of capitalism, imperialism, and that we need and we can bring a whole different world into being. And you're going to hear more about what that world looks like in a little bit when we play Bob Avakian. But just to bring in the concretes of some of what we're doing with a determination to act in the interests of the people of the world. So do you want to read this matching challenge?
Yeah, so this is I think we got a total or what we're beginning. Good. So you want to go
ahead? Okay, so starting at the beginning of the live stream, we have $9,193, and we'll continue to add as funds come in. Okay, go ahead.
So we're gonna start off this live stream with this double matching challenge from Texas. It is $1,100 double matching challenge from Texas. So just to give people context, this student put up $550 and asked others in Texas to match it, and then that was matched, and they are now putting the challenge to others around the country to meet this $1,100 challenge. So they say, I'm a student and have decided to put some of my student loan money toward a matching challenge from Texas. I am one of those people who can't stand this world the way it is. And I know there are millions more like me. Right now, millions are agonizing about the state of the world, about living under a fascist regime, about accelerating climate catastrophe, the genocide in Gaza, and more. In these times, Bob Avakian's voice calling people into the massive struggle needed now to defeat Trump MAGA fascism and into the revolution that can uproot this fascism and the whole rotten system that gave rise to it is a true beacon of hope. So thank you for that statement. This is a really important example of, like, you know, kind of beginning with what they put forward and asking, you know, and double matching it and now putting it back to the people that are watching this live stream right now. To, you know, so begin getting this out to other people, and let's meet. This should be a quick one to be able to match. So let's match it really quick while we, you know, want you.
Okay, so I'm going to say a couple other things.
Yeah.
Michelle's like, you talk. Okay, so that's a very inspiring statement. You know, a student probably who does not have that much means taking from their student loans because they think this really matters, and it really does matter. Now is the time. We said in building for this live stream, now is the time to throw all in, go all out, hold nothing back. I was about to say something else. Okay, just for people tuning in, you know, Michelle said this earlier, this is the time now. You just heard that matching challenge from a student in Texas. They're in a deep red state, surrounded by fascism, and they're recognizing the need to donate to the Forces for Revolution for a Whole New World. And those funds are going to things like the equipment we need to work on the social media. Okay, we hope we're back. We're sorry for that. As we said, the excitement of a live broadcast. Technical difficulties, but you're back with us now. So what we don't know exactly where you lost us, but I think what we should do is, anyways, and if you're tuning back in or new to this, we are in the midst of a national live stream to raise funds. Okay, good. We have audio and video. What more could we want? A whole new world. We are watching a national live stream to raise funds for the RevCom volunteers and RevCom projects across the country. And we are aiming to raise $30,000 by September 30th. And by the end of this live stream today, we're aiming to raise $20,000. And so we have some work to do all together. Michelle, why don't you pick up?
I don't know if people heard this, but also to double emphasize, we are going to start with our first matching challenge of the day, which is an 1100 double matching challenge from Texas. And this is a student who put up $550 and asked others in Texas to match it. Then that was matched, and now they're putting the challenge to others around the country to meet this challenge of $1,100. So the student says, I am a student and have decided to put some of my student loan money toward a matching challenge from Texas. I am one of those people who can't stand this world the way it is. And I know there are millions more like me. Right now, millions are agonizing about the state of the world, about living under a fascist regime, about accelerating climate catastrophe, the genocide in Gaza, and more. In these times, Bob Avakian's voice, calling people into the massive struggle needed now to defeat Trump MAGA fascism and into the revolution that can uproot this fascism and the whole rotten system that gave rise to it, is a true beacon of hope. So thank you for that statement, and for everybody watching at home, now's the time to get this out to people. We gotta, this should be a fairly easy one to like match pretty quickly, because we do have, we should keep all of these coming, more coming. And this is, I think, this understanding that there really are millions of people out there that when this message gets to them, it actually does lift people from, again, this kind of hopelessness, or kind of, you're seeing all of the horrors that are just coming day after day. One of the people in the RevCom Corps, every time he walks in through the organizing center, he's like, did you see what happened today? Because it really is daily. It really is like all the time. You just see all of these horrors, but then for people to really like be able to understand both that it's not just one-sided, like all of this, all of this horrors without an actual way out of this, and nobody's guaranteeing the way out of this, but there actually is a way out of this. And I think what this student is saying, right, in these times, Bob Avakian's voice is a beacon of hope, right?
Yeah. We'll hear from him in just a second, but I just want to say what the funds are going to. The funds are going to forces on to enable the RevComs to have the infrastructure necessary to lead nationally. The equipment, we're going to talk more about the social media. We watched a 1-minute clip from a volunteer working on social media, but doing the kind of high-end social media that's necessary right now requires apps, it requires equipment, it requires really reliable Wi-Fi. All that takes funds, materials all across the country, posters, websites, this studio. And we're going to talk more about, if people watched our show the other day, you heard that we're going to pause temporarily the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show, but that's not because we're doing less right now. That's because we have to do a lot more and more and more dynamically. And we're going to talk about that. But to do any of this requires funds, and to have the kind of funds needed for the Forces for Revolution requires you. So that matching challenge from this student in Texas and the people around who responded to their challenge, now you have to respond to the double down challenge. So now I think while you're reaching out to people about that, with that challenge to meet this matching challenge from the student in Texas, we want to move to play a substantive clip from the revolutionary leader, Bob Avakian. You heard us say there's a different way the world could be. A whole better way is possible. There's a way out. well, what is that way out? What kind of world are we talking about? And this is a clip from a series of interviews that were done with Bob Avakian by Sansara Taylor in January of this year. It's a two-part interview. Humanity does not have to live this way. And we're just going to play it. He talks some about what does it mean that humanity does not have to live this way, in particular some of the breakthroughs in the new communism in terms of internationalism. And I think especially at a moment when, you know, the US is threatening the world, shooting people in international waters just on Trump's fascist say-so, when they are fully backing and funding and fueling a heartbreaking, horrific genocide in Gaza, you know, just in the daily imperialist exploitation, it matters that we're taking responsibility for the whole world. And I think that's particularly sharp now when we're talking about the urgency of defeating this fascism. But for what? What kind of world is possible? So let's step back. We're going to watch this clip from Bob Avakian on internationalism and the new communism. And while you're watching it, call people, tell them to tune into this live, and tell them to donate to get this really unique voice and this message and the forces that are spreading this voice throughout society. So let's watch.
So let's talk about the international picture a little bit with the new socialist republic. You've made the point about internationalism. The whole world comes first. It's in your book Basics, from your talks and writings, quotations and essays. How does that apply in a new socialist republic?
Look, there are a number of contradictions that the new communism is setting out to deal with in a way that's beyond the way these contradictions have been dealt with in past communist revolutions and socialist societies. And, you know, I think this is very important to understand. One of these contradictions I referred to, which is how do you advance toward communism on the basis of the masses of people moving to do that through all the different contradictions and ebbs and flows of the process, without, as I put it, you know, metaphorically, putting guns at the backs of the mass of people and, in any case, force marching them to communism, which you cannot do and will not work, and will actually lead to a revolt against you, and will actually lead back to capitalism or feed the forces seeking to go back to capitalism. So that's one contradiction that the new communism is consciously setting out to deal with, or that I've set out to deal with in the new communism, which is actually leading masses of people through all the contradictions and difficulties to advance on the road to uprooting and overcoming all these exploitative and oppressive relations and advancing to communism without, you know, force marching to people to do it. Or another way to put it is, how do you do that without turning out the lights intellectually and culturally? And that relates to another very profound contradiction of transforming the world in the direction of communism and transforming particular countries on the road to communism as part of an overall international or world process. And that is how do you orient your society to actually, including the economy in particular as the foundation of everything, how do you orient it toward meeting the fundamental needs of the masses of people, in particular their basic material needs on an expanding basis, as well as their intellectual and cultural needs, without, once again, turning out the lights, without, you know, not providing for or even suppressing intellectual and cultural ferment, dissent, and so on. This is another contradiction that the new communism is dealing with in a completely different way, on a completely different level than it's been dealt with in the past. Now, another dimension, to get back directly to your question, is the international dimension. How do you handle the contradiction between the things I've been talking about, meeting the needs of the people, transforming the particular country on the road of socialism toward the final goal of communism in the world, with everything that's involved in that I've been just touching on, while at the same time being oriented fundamentally toward advancing the struggle of people worldwide toward the same goal. And that can be a very acute contradiction, both materially in terms of, like, look, there you have, at any given time, you only have so many resources. And you're having a struggle about how you're going to utilize those resources in an exploitive way or in a way that does away with exploitation. You know, how are you going to utilize those resources in a way that's liberating, at the same time meeting the needs of the people and within the country, and materially as well as politically supporting revolutionary struggles around the world? That's another acute contradiction. And then it can become even more acute if these, you know, imperialist countries around the world, as they will move in various ways to try to suffocate, strangle, and actually attack and overthrow your new socialist system. And so therefore you have to provide for the defense of your new socialist system against forces not only within the country but surrounding the country at any given time who want to defeat and destroy what you're working to build. So how do you handle the contradiction between that and actually supporting revolution in the world materially, as well as, you know, in terms of, you know, culturally, politically, and so on? So, you know, all these are dealt with in a different way by the new communism. Not saying, oh, well, you know, let's just do everything for the world revolution, and we don't, you know, so what if people can't go hungry here in this country, or they have no shoes for their children? No, you have to pay attention to those needs as a very basic question. But you have to figure out how to handle the contradiction, so at the same time you're increasingly able to give material as well as political support to the revolution in the world as a whole, because you recognize that ultimately, not in any, you know, immediate terms, but ultimately, you know, you have to advance to communism on a world level. And, you know, you cannot just be an island of socialism within a sea of capitalism, imperialism over any long-term, you know, period of time. So even on those terms, as well as the fact that, as you referred to, humanity comes first. That's our basic orientation. There's nothing special or specially good or God-favored or whatever by the people in this country or any other. We're all human beings, you know, and that's the most fundamental identity we have, with all the other things that are very real in terms of oppressive relations. The most fundamental identity we have is as human beings, and we share a common fate as human beings, one way or another. I mean, one of the things that's interesting, even under the auspices of this system, you'll see astronauts and others who go into space and they look at the Earth from the space. And, you know, I've read recently, one of them said it, the idea of the different countries and, you know, at borders, which are I mean, he didn't go this far, but the idea of different countries seems ridiculous when you look at the Earth from space and see it as one thing, you know. And the idea that you have all these barriers and borders and armies, and, you know, to enforce all these divisions, and you have people who are declared illegal if they go from one country, one part of that world to another. You know, you step back and you can get the same view as those astronauts and people in space get. This is all one world and one humanity. And even though we have to proceed through different countries and different societies on the road to achieving communism on a world level, to keep in mind that fundamental picture of, you know, the unity of humanity ultimately. And, you know, you can see the unity concretely expressed. People do, you know, come from different parts of the world to other parts of the world all the time. You know, they're always bragging, the ruling class in the country, this is a country of immigrants. You know, now we got a fascist regime that says we got to get rid of all these so-called illegal immigrants. And, you know, and of course they're going to sweep up, if they have their way, they'll sweep up a lot of legal ones too, even according to the, you know, the restricted notions of the law. So, you know, this is a fundamental point of orientation of, you know, we are going for the emancipation of humanity as a whole, because that's the way that everyone can get emancipated and no other way ultimately. And because we all share that fundamental identity, if you will, or that fundamental reality of being human beings on one planet.
So that was the revolutionary leader, Bob Avakian. And, you know, if you just think about what kind of world is possible versus the kind of world we have, and what a difference it makes to have this revolutionary leader who's done so much work on how to actually get to a world without exploitation and oppression and dealing with the real world problems of that. Before we went to that clip, we put out a matching challenge from the student in Texas. She gave $550. Comrades or people, they raised then the funds for that to be met by people in Texas. And now the people of Texas are saying to you to meet that matching challenge. And so far we have raised $680 for that $1,100 match. So that means we have to raise $300 more to meet that first matching challenge. And that will get us $2,200 further to our goal of $20,000 today, which is 2/3 of our goal overall. So if you give now, you will contribute to tripling the donation from the student in Texas. Oh, I have now been corrected. We are now $1,032 toward the $1,100 matching challenge. So who's going to give $70 to make that $1,100 match? Right now, $70, and we're going to hit our first matching challenge. So that clip we watched from Bob Avakian, I think, do you want to go to the two shot? I'm going to get Michelle in here. So that clip we watched, thank you, sorry, live stream. A live fundraising live stream.
You're seeing all our live
glitches, all our live glitches.
All the behind the scenes of every week's RNL show.
So that clip we watched is pretty incredible, and people should really watch the full interview. You can watch it on this channel, youtube.com/the RevComs. You can watch it on Bob Avakian's social media platform. And you just see, like, man, Bob Avakian really is, we've said this before, but he's dealing with questions most people have not even thought of. How do you deal with the contradictions that you're talking about liberation for people here and all over the world? And yet to get there, you have to go through the complicated process of making revolution in one country, making that a base area for world revolution, and then not meeting people's needs, but not having that turn into then, set against the people of the world and just the opposite.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, like, while I was listening to this the section, it made me think about, like, when we go out and we talk to people, they listen to these messages, and then in first sweep they kind of respond, oh yeah, he's saying everything I'm thinking. And it's on one level, it's like, yeah, like when you think about even that thing that he was walking through of, like, stepping back and kind of, you're an astronaut going into space and you're looking down and it's just one world, no borders, but he takes it to another level. He actually, yes, it is like these kinds of things that people like question and actually, like, really deep inside of them, like, really feel and even question, like, why is it that we have borders? Why is it that people are divided in this way? And when people come, from other parts of the world, they are treated as illegals or whatever, but he takes it further to actually understand, yeah, why is it, bringing alive this slogan, that the RevCom Corps have been, like, putting out as we're, out fighting, standing up against what's happening, that this whole system is rotten and illegitimate. There's no, like, legitimate reason why there's any of these. There has to be these borders, these wars between, that plunder and destroy and make it impossible for people to live, or not live in their home country and having to, like, flee and come to this country to then be treated like animals and worse. And these are all things that people see on the surface, and yes, they feel it very deeply. But then a lot of what ends up happening is people end up just kind of saying, well, it's just too big and it's just too, like, hard. How are you even going to change that? You can't change that. That's automatically where people go to. And then to see, not only is he saying you can change it, but how you would actually unleash a whole society, under a different system, a fundamentally different system, to actually be our orientation being the people of the world and actually, like, fighting for the liberation, the emancipation of all of humanity, and how you would be able to unleash people in this, what would be the socialist system to actually go to work on that. So those are, like, I think the kind of discussions, the kind of, like, eye-opening debates and, an actual, like, engagement that has to go on in a mass way, and I think it brings us back to this student in Texas that wrote this statement of, like, this BA's voice, Bob Avakian's voice being a beacon of hope in this time when everything on the surface just looks like, somebody else keeps, all the time I'm talking to him, he always says, well, we're fucked. He always keeps saying we're fucked, but no, actually, we're, not yet, there's still an opportunity to actually, like, and especially if this voice actually gets put all over society and people are actually deeply engaging and, yes, debating and discussing the content of what he's putting forward.
Yeah. And that's what people are donating to a force that's spreading this message, a force on the ground that's able to have the materials and the support and the, you know, the infrastructure to be able to spread this message. That doesn't happen without funds. Okay, so we now have, oh, yes, we've made the first match. We have $1,155.57, and we made the first match. So, hooray. Okay, so two things we're going to do. We're going to read, okay, I guess we'll do this first.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, all right, people, that was our first hurdle. And it was done beautifully, and it was done together with people all across the country pulling together, and then we were able to you know, look at and talk about what kind of world we're fighting for. We have a second match that we'd like to put to you. So if you were just starting to text people or call people and say, hey, tune into the RevCom's live stream, we're raising funds, we're going to accomplish something really important all together, keep texting them, because we have another $1,000 match. This is from people in Hawaii who pulled their funds together and are putting a challenge to people all across the country to meet that $1,000 match. And while you guys are starting to think about who you're going to reach out to, all that, we want to, for new people tuning in, if you missed the beginning, we are doing a national live stream to raise, we're in the middle of a fund drive to raise $30,000 for the RevComs and National RevCom projects being anchored by the national tour to get organized for an actual revolution. And we are urgently putting ourselves into the fight to defeat this fascism. And from that perspective, to defeat the Trump MAGA fascist regime, to drive it from power, uniting all who can be united, and doing that from the perspective of and basing ourselves on the new communism that's been developed by the revolutionary leader, Bob Avakian, you just had the opportunity to hear. So I am going to read a statement from somebody who just gave a $10 donation yesterday. And this was from, there was an event yesterday. It was a Latinos in Berkeley exhibit at the Revolution Books booth. And there was a fundraiser there who was talking to people and raising funds and got a couple statements. So this is somebody who gave $10, and they said, Bob Avakian is an amazing person. He's still going strong. I heard him speak. He's passionate, and I was moved by his words and his statement. He hasn't given up on the dream. We need to revolt against this madness. And then they quoted Henry Miller, dreams are the substance of reality. And I think especially right now, at a time of such low dreams, at a time of such darkness, that captures the right spirit and sentiment. Dreams are the substance of reality. And we have to fight big for big dreams. So thank you to the person who gave $10. And all across the country, we have another $1,000 matching challenge. And I think our total is something like $1,100. It's on your screen, so you might have it more to your fingers than I do. Where to next, Michelle?
Well, one thing I think, we got this really good statement. I mean, I kind of wanted to read the original of it, which is in Spanish, right? This is a statement in Spanish from an immigrant woman who donated $10 and is calling on her coworkers to donate too. So, so I'm going to read it in Spanish, and then I'll do the English translation. So she says, yo apoyo las ideas de RevCom porque quiero que se propague a nivel nacional en redes o televisión y por todo un poco para que puedan hacerlo. Yo conozco los RevComs por un tiempo y como ellos son basados en el análisis científico de Bob Avakian y su visión para un mundo radicalmente diferente y mucho mejor. Esos son tiempos muy urgentes y necesitamos movilizar millones de personas para el 5 de noviembre sin detenernos hasta que el régimen salga de poder. Cuando está en el poder el principal fascista, todos los racistas salen a atacar porque saben que tienen el respaldo y los saca de prisión. Trump liberó a los racistas como hizo con los que atacaron el Capitolio en enero. Tenemos que unirnos todas las diferentes comunidades para derrocar ese régimen de Trump. Y necesitamos millones de gentes en noviembre en Washington, D.C., Yo doné $10 y hablaré con mis compañeras para que también ellos puedan donar. So they said, I support the ideas of RevCom because I wanted to spread nationally on social media and on TV. And I am making a small donation so that this happened. I've known the RevComs for a while and how they are based on the scientific analysis of Bob Avakian and his vision for a radically different and much better world. These are very urgent times, and we need to mobilize millions of people for November 5th and to continue until the Trump regime leaves power. When the main fascists in power, all the racists come back out to attack because they know they have his support and he gets them out of prison. Trump released the racists as he did with those who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. We all have to come together from different communities to defeat this Trump regime, and we need millions of people in November 5th in Washington, D.C. I donated $10, and I will talk to my coworkers so that they can donate too. So, muchas gracias. Thank you so much for...
I can do that, camera.
Muchas gracias, compañera. Thank you for sending this statement. I think, this is like, very important to have people that are going to their coworkers, that are giving what they can and that are also like spreading this. That's going to be a very important part of how this is going to actually spread, for people to, this is one of the lessons that we were kind of, learning very recently over, like, when you actually go out and you like ask people to give, you're breaking open these questions with people. You can, I know somebody also who was talking to me about like talking to their coworkers, and kind of a little bit like, yeah, thumbs up, but then also kind of not really wanting to talk about these things, but, and I was saying to them, like, well, you have to ask for funds. You're going to break open these questions and the real disagreements are going to come out. But you want that. You want that kind of controversy. You want, the immigrant woman who was going to these people saying, look, this is the reality of what's happening. These are open racist. They have their main guy in power and he's backing them up to be openly racist. People like can see that, but I think people are scared, and to like, to really confront that that's actually the reality. But then also that here's, as she said, the RevComs that base themselves on the scientific analysis from Bob Avakian. Why is it that we don't like fucking cower in recognizing that? Because we actually recognize where this actually comes from and the possibility to put an end to it. That's why people have to give to this, for our ability to actually like get this leadership, this voice, and actually being out in the front lines, putting to people that it doesn't actually have to be this way, that we don't actually have to accept that, yes, we do have to rise up now, we do have to stand up against these racists should not be like marching down the street telling people that, to like, scaring and terrorizing communities. They should not be allowed to do that, and more fundamentally, people have to see like all of this comes from a country that was founded on slavery and genocide. We have to be bringing all of that reality to people, and so to bring all that back to like opening up those kinds of debates and discussions in the workplaces amongst like people, and saying to them, here's why I gave, here's why you should give, and you're learning more about your coworkers in that way when you do break open those kinds of questions.
Yeah, and look, part of it too is the RevComs do proceed from the interests of the people of the whole world, and so we recognize it matters to make a sacrifice. It matters to have the uncomfortable conversations because you're committed and you recognize, like, one, who's got right on our side, and two, who's got the interests of the people of the world actually objectively, and it's in the process of defeating this fascist regime and seeing the roots of this exploitative capitalist imperialist beast that this fascism comes out of, and that's sitting like a monstrosity on the people of the world. So I want to do two things. We're going to update the total. We've raised $11,450, and I'm going to ask this very kind volunteer to pass me that cup of tea, and you can just put it right there. Sorry, guys. See, that's once again the theme of today is this is a live stream. Thank you so much. Okay, teamwork makes the dream work, people. And we're doing that all together, all across the country. I also wanted to say, like, that you just read that statement from someone who gave $10, right? And if you think about what happens when we do come together all across the country, whether you can give $10, whether you can give $10,000, and we do encourage you, if you can give $10,000, give it now. Now is the time to give generously. But whatever level you can give, it's through coming together that we can make a really huge difference. And then you're part of something bigger than yourself. And that really is you know, especially now when you have this fascist regime. I mean, it's the horrors it's carrying out to immigrants, to trans people, to black people, the racism. I mean, they're celebrating this openly racist Charlie Kirk, who was wrongly killed. But then they're trying to sanctify him to something he never was, and through that, shoving this racism down our throats. At this time, they're also encouraging all this selfishness, all this me above all else, and part of what we're fighting for and can recognize and project is a force that's about total liberation and about coming together and about fighting for something bigger than yourself. So why don't we read one more statement, then I'm going to talk a little bit about the changes on the RNL, with the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show, and the difference your funds are making in this urgent moment. Do you want to read the other statement from Berkeley?
This one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is again from people at Latinos in Berkeley exhibit at Revolution Books booth. So this person gave $20, and they say, I think this is really important and want to contribute to the RevCom projects. I come from a rural town in the Central Valley, and Trump coming to power has heavily affected my community. There have been many ICE raids in California and all over the country that have instilled fear in my people. I want that to stop. I want to contribute to support these volunteers speaking out against this fascism. And this is a UC Berkeley student. So thank you for that. You know, I've kind of, you know, had some experience like working with some people that are around the same Central Valley, you know, area, working in the fields. You know, I work together with a grouping of campesinos, farm workers that called for a strike, you know, and they were, you know, they put out a really important kind of statement after Jaime Alanis was, you know, killed when in this massive raid that went on in Oxnard. And, you know, I mean, I ended up going to his funeral, and it was really like, it was just heartbreaking, you know, and just kind of seeing, you know, in his body, they put a beanie over his head to cover the injuries of, you know, falling and breaking his neck and his skull, you know. So this is like the terror, you know, this is the real lives, the real blood of the people that are spilling, you know, right now because of what this regime is actually unleashing on people, you know. And you're seeing that even if you're not literally there, it's like, you know, some of the farm workers that I've been working with that are talking about how people are not even coming to work, you know, how people are not, you know, they're afraid, you know. After this Oxnard thing happened, you know, I went down there with some of the farm workers as well, and like within like a matter of minutes, a rumor started spreading that ICE was there, and everybody just like, you know, got in their cars and left, you know, and we're just like terrorized, you know. But this is the reality of what this, you know, as this person said, I want that to stop. You know, when you think about millions of people that actually feel that really deeply, that see of what's happening and actually recognize their communities being affected by this, and, you know, they need to know that we don't have to live this way. They need to get connected up with the leadership of Bob Avakian, with the RevComs, you know, and actually, and this is what these funds are going to. And so this person, you know, giving $20 and actually like speaking to other people that recognize this, that are, you know, that have seen the images of Jaime Alanis. And then since then, you know, another person here in California, Carlos, who like ran into like, you know, trying to escape these ICE raids, got hit by a car, you know, killed. And the many more people that are, you know, dying in ICE detention, like all of this, you know, all of this is so unnecessary. You know, it's heartbreaking, but when you really recognize like where all of this comes from and the unnecessariness of it, it gives you more the fuel to like fight to fucking end this.
Yeah. Okay, so that is very powerful, and it's true. And it's part of, you know, this, you know, what you're able to do it because people are contributing to, you know, the materials you're bringing, to the gas money in your car. All of this, it requires funds. Okay, so I have two great things to share that's, you know, kind of taking in the heaviness of what you said, Michelle. But one is we are $480 toward our $1,000 match. So that's great, and $521 to go to meet that $1,000 match from people in Hawaii. And two, I'm not looking at the live chat, but somebody just told me that one of the generous souls out there said, if you play the Outer National song, Across the Borderline, which has a beautiful and powerful clip from the revolutionary leader, Bob Avakian, that they will donate $750. So we hear you, and we will take it, and we will play this. You're going to give us a minute because we got to put the link into the live stream. So I'm letting our heroic runners of the live stream know. Okay, we're going to play it soon, but it's going to be a little bit from now. So do you need it? Where do you need it is the question. Okay, so we will play that soon. We really appreciate the request, and this is a really powerful song, and it's a outer national song that is, like I said, we'll play it in a minute, but I'll just tell you about it now for those who are wondering what we're talking about. Outer National is a revolutionary future rock band, and they did a cover of a Ry Cooder song, and their cover is both inspired by and borrows from Bob Avakian singing in the middle of a talk that he gave in 2003, and the talk was titled Revolution, Why It's Necessary, Why It's Possible, What It's All About. And in talking about the people you're talking about, Michelle, why people are forced to come here from all over the world, he sang this really beautiful song, an excerpt from it from the movie El Norte from Ry Cooder. So thank you for the request, and we will get to it as soon as we can, we promise. It will be soon. Just not quite immediate, but soon. Okay, so we are almost $500 to meeting that $1,000 match, and we have a total right now, not including the match, of about 1,150. No, sorry, 11,050, something like that. Forgive me. It's on the screen. Okay, so now help me out. Why don't you read a statement, and then I'm going to talk some about the changes on the show.
I was trying to look at more statements, like with theme of today, live. Lots of things happening.
Okay, why don't we read this one from the regular donor to the RevComs?
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm messing you up because I'm okay, there, go.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, so a lot of the people that have been kind of donating and be part of this, they've been part of like regularly sustaining and being part of donating to the RevComs, and we appreciate and we send a lot of love to everybody who has continued to give their resources to the RevComs. And this is one of those people who says, why do I contribute to the RevComs? I think it's my personal outrage at the status of the world. In particular, fascism is upon us. On hearing and seeing what's happened, families separated, fellow immigrants kidnapped, genocide in Gaza, I am reacting to all of that. All this shows that fascism is upon us and compels me to ask, what can I do? The only way to stop this advancement of fascism is to get the Trump regime out now. BA and the RevComs are providing leadership to unite all who can be united, to build the movement to stop fascism from being consolidated. Personally, I want to be part of doing that. I see what Refuse Fascism is calling for, and what the RevComs are working on is the only way to stop the fascism movement from consolidating in the most powerful capitalist imperialist empire that the world has known. So thank you for that statement to our regular donor. And there is so much truth to what there, that there really is, like, a lot of, recognition of what is actually happening. And for people, everybody should be asking the same thing that this person is asking themselves, right? In the face of everything that we're seeing, what people are going to do in the face of that, and recognizing the program and the strategy that we actually have, and this really important, fight to unite all who can be united, everybody. That's not just uniting the most radical ones. That's not just kind of like everybody who's down, but yes, literally everybody, including the people that are waving the American flags. A lot of people were out in the streets a few days ago after the cancellation of Jimmy Kimmel's show, and there was a lot of people out there who really were like frightened because they really feel like they're gonna lose their democracy, and all those people, we didn't go out there and say, oh, fuck your democracy, whatever. They're we
better not.
No, but seriously, like, all jokes aside, there is people that like are actually out there just kind of anyways, we'll get into some of that, but we were out there really like, yeah, this is a really dangerous moment, and like and it's important that these people actually like did come out there and you know, for a lot of their love for Jimmy Kimmel, but also the recognition that this is really dangerous, you know, when they're actually going out and really like shutting down, you know, a whole you know, show because somebody that's actually like speaking around this. And you know, and I think this is the thing of like, we are actually uniting with these people, yes, and talking about the reality of like, you know, the democracy and what it actually like, you know, rests on. And at the same time really saying to people, we have to like all be like fighting right now to mobilize all that we can to stand up and to raise the demand that Trump must go now because of the urgency of the moment. And you know, and this is like, if people that really, we'll get more as we move along the show today, we'll get into the role of the social media messages from Bob Avakian. But if people that have been, you know, closely following this, that listen to all the messages that are coming through every time, you know, you hear that in Bob Avakian, you know, he's calling for unite all who can be united. He's calling for, yes, the necessary struggle to, you know, for people that are so locked in and don't think that, you know, that are trying to find whatever other schemes to try to deal with this versus really facing the reality that this is fascism and the urgency of the moment to throw all in to actually drive this regime from power, you know, and struggling with people around like, what's actually required, what people actually have to confront about, you know, what this fascism means, you know. And so I think the, you know, this person really recognizing, right, like that what Refuse Fascism, what the RevComs, what Bob Avakian is actually putting forward is the only way to stop this fascism from fully consolidating.
I mean, yeah, that's true. But okay, so I want to speak to that. I want to also announce we now have made our second match. So $1,056.05 toward the second match. So thank you to people who donated and keep contributing. We'll get the totals in just a second. We'll let you know. I just want to say though, like the fact is that the people who, many of the people who are deeply, feel very deeply and love this country from whatever, you know, whatever their understanding of what that represents, they actually often get more how serious this fascism is because it goes so deeply against what they've come to expect. And having there's a lot of people who've never met a communist, who want nothing to do with communists, who actually can see the need to come together to defeat this fascism because it's so extreme. And I think part of the point is in the new communism that Bob Avakian has developed, there really is a recognition that you have to really see the best in people, and with a lot of generosity of spirit and tremendous broadness of mind, base ourselves on what is in the interest of the vast majority of humanity, of the people of the world at any given time, and act on that basis, and not the kind of narrowness or precepts or whatever that is so endemic to too much of the kind of people you're talking about that would hold we don't hold our nose. If you're part of the decent people, then you're part of, we're coming together and we'll struggle with each other and we'll learn from each other in that process. But that's very different than I think what mars a lot of the, you know, quote unquote left in this country. So thank you, keep giving. Okay, we are queued up to, upon request, to play Across the Borderline from Outer National with a powerful cameo from the revolutionary leader Bob Avakian. And I was corrected. It's from the film The Border. So here we go.
There's a land, so I've been told. Every street is paved with gold, and it's just across the borderline. And when it's time to take your turn, here's a lesson you must learn. You will lose more than you'll ever hope to find. And when you reach the broken promised land, every dream slips through your hands. just to wind up where you are, and you still just across the borderline. Up and down the Rio Grande, 1,000 footprints in the sand reveal a secret no one can define. The river flows on like a bridge between our life and death. Now tell me who will cross the borderline. And when you reach the broken promised land, every dream slips through your hand, and you know it's too late to change your mind. 'Cause you paid the price to come this far, just to wind up where you are, and you still just across the borderline.
Well, thank you to the generous donor who requested that beautiful song. We were thrilled to listen to it in studio. So that was Across the Borderline from the revolutionary future rock band International, featuring the voice of the revolutionary leader Bob Avakian, talking about people who are forced to come here from all over the world. And I mean, I think that song is from over 20 years ago, 15 years, some time ago, and the power of it is truer than ever. And we're glad to see the images of the people that this fascist regime so viciously vilifies and terrorizes and talks like, about as if they're animals, when these are our people. So thank you for asking us to play that song, and thank you for your generous donation for that song, and thank you to International for making that song, and for Bob Avakian for seeing the importance of having a poetic spirit and in the middle of this powerful speech singing that song. Okay, so we met our last matching challenge. We are at, I just looked at the number and I can't remember it, $1,400? So we have $6,000 that we're aiming to raise here together for the rest of our live stream. We have a lot more to go in our, I'm just looking at the time, we have a lot more to share with you. So we're gonna do another matching challenge. People got really into seeing their donation get matched and doubled. So this is from, where did it go? Oh, it's in here, sorry. Okay, here's the matching challenge from, I have to find it, I'm very sorry. Give me a second. It was in our statements and now I don't see it. Oh, nope. Give me a second. Okay, so sorry, here we go. Here is a $1,000 challenge from a medical professional. And they said, please join me in giving with all the generosity you can draw on to support and sustain the RevComs in their vital and their urgent work. I am donating $1,000 now, and I'm calling on others to match this donation. Once the match is met, I will contribute an additional $1,000. To top it off, I challenge others to make a similar pledge to accelerate this fundraising campaign. Open the RevCom's Instagram. Open the feed of the RevComs on Instagram any given day, and you will find stirring agitation and incisive analysis. Check out the posts and the Instagram stories that illustrate the full scope of the day-by-day horror. Follow at Bob Avakian Official, and you will get eyes on the horizon leadership, sharp and substantive, each message an application of the scientific approach of the new communism. He provides ongoing, active leadership which must be heard by the millions. We don't have to live this way. And the RevComs are out there showing that day after day. Support their work, change the world for real. That is a very generous donation. We want to thank you for your contribution and for your powerful words. So think about that. If you give right now, your donation will actually be tripled because they are giving $1,000 as a match, and then they'll give another $1,000 once that is matched. So it's anything you give right now is going to be matched double fold. So that is significant. Give now, and that'll bring us pretty close to meeting our goal for this live stream and put us in a great position to meet the next $10,000 by September 30th. So I want to take a minute now and talk some about the changes on the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show. If you are a regular viewer of the show, you heard us announce on Thursday that we're doing a temporary pause of our weekly show every Thursday, 5 o'clock. And for right now, we are not going to be with you every Thursday at 5 o'clock in the same way. Why are we doing this? Because we are in a race against time. And as important as the show is, we really feel that the energy we put into producing a weekly show can be more dynamically put to reaching millions through social media and through doubling down on really pushing for and fighting for Bob Avakian social media to reach millions and millions. And on our social media channel, as the generous donor just talked about, you'll see all kinds of material, all kinds of incisive analysis and powerful agitation and exposure. And one thing we've learned is that we can and have reached a very large audience. And yes, social media's got all kinds of problems. But it is where people look to for guidance and for understanding. And we're able to provide that, again, mainly through the social media messages that Bob Avakian is releasing very, very regularly. Stay tuned this week for there's a message yesterday, the day before that, another message tomorrow about what's happening, what to make of this, the murder of Charlie Kirk and the cynical way that the fascist regime has seized on that to really go all out to repress and enforce this, kind of dark ages, Christian fascist, openly white supremacist worldview. So this understanding through our social media is unique. And through our social media, we're going to do a lot of real-time agitation, hot on the heels of things, with two main focuses. One, getting people in their millions to take up and act on the urgent need to defeat this fascism, amassing in DC beginning November 5th and not stopping until this regime is driven from power. And two, popularizing and bringing people the leadership and the vision and the analysis of Bob Avakian and the new communism he's developed and the living real-time agitation he's doing about this fascism. And all of that comes through at the RevComs, on our social media, and at Bob Avakian Official. So yes to the donor. Go look at the RevComs on Instagram. We're going to be doing a lot more on TikTok. We're going to be doing a lot more on all platforms. And we want to now play. Hold on. Go ahead. Help me out.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, just on this thing, for people that, follow, our show and kind of that's the way that they get a lot of leadership and guidance. One thing that I'll say is our website is a very important place that people should be looking, just like people look to and have in their mind Thursdays 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, etc. You should be thinking Monday mornings, going on our website revcom.us, that provides real analysis, applying this new communism. That's what these articles and actually putting forward, okay, what just happened. People are seeing all these news, and yeah, it's it overwhelms people sometimes, of being able to really understand from the perspective of what is happening, why, what's in the interest of humanity, how do we really go out and really transform this. That's the leadership that the website is providing. It highlights some of the social media messages from Bob Avakian. It highlights the RevCom core for the emancipation of humanity, which there needs to be a lot more contributions that we need to RevCom cores across the country. We need to be contributing more.
She's looking at you.
At us. We need to be contributing more of our experiences, you know, to I'll look at this camera. Yeah, okay, technical difficulty, sorry. But we need to be contributing more to the website to be able to share experiences from across the country. And, you know, there's a lot of rich experiences that, you know, as we're kind of getting from the statements, right? And we'll hear more, you know, as we're going to hear from people in other cities, you know. But I think there's actually like, we shouldn't overlook our website, you know, is all I'm trying to say. There's a lot of important, you know, things that, you know, there was a certain point where some of us were going to the beach together and reading the website together and discussing it. You know, the RevCom cores need to be having more of that kind of life. Not that we take a whole day to go to the beach, fortunately, because things are getting really intense, but that we come together over dinner, you know, whatever, and just kind of read some of the articles together and discuss it. You know, I think that's another important thing that, you know, that people should be looking to. But yeah, I just wanted to point to that.
Yes, the website, very important. And we do, you know, but the website too requires funds. You know, people think, oh, the internet, it's free. It's not free. It requires equipment to write articles on, to research, internet access. It requires a lot of funds to keep. I mean, that's a large, significant website with everything you're talking about, analysis and agitation about what's happening, how to make sense of the madness. And it's got the whole depth of the body of work that Avakian has developed over decades. It's an incredible resource. If you want to understand, you know, just our world and human society, it's an incredible resource, but that is a large website and it requires a lot of funds to maintain. That's part of what we're raising funds for here today. And there's a team of people that work on that website. And all of that is possible because of your support. So thank you for that. We're going to go to a social media compilation to show some of what the RevCom cores for the emancipation of humanity have been doing across the country. And it's showing what your funds are going to in terms of what we're doing, but it's also showing what your funds are going to in terms of being able to project this force all across the country, because it is, you know, an anchor for people nationally to understand and act on what we're facing and to raise their sights to a whole better world. So let's watch that compilation of the RevCom core nationally.
Business as usual, when the business as usual is fascism cementing in this country. An open, white supremacist, human-hating, LGBT-hating, immigrant-bashing, America-first imperialist voting fascist regime.
We cannot continue to walk by, keep our heads down, keep quiet, and hope that 4 years from now, things will get better. People, things won't get better unless we make things better.
No decent person should wake up one more day and accept that the streets are being flooded with masked, armed, militarized thugs systematically violating the law and due process of law to round people up who are brown and from a different country.
Help must go now!
Help must go now!
Everybody needs to get off the sideline. And if you heard someplace that black people, you need to keep your ass at home because fascism does not affect you, they are lying to you. And you will end up in a place worse than where you are now. Everybody needs to be in there. Black people need to be in there, being amongst those in the front lines, fighting against injustice.
People need to look deeper at what the root cause of all this is. And what's it going to take to put an end to all this? And that's going to require an actual revolution.
We're getting out this crucial message from Bob Avakian. This is somebody that has been analyzing the rise of fascism for decades and has been analyzing how it's rooted in a system of capitalism and imperialism and has brought forward a strategy to make a revolution in a whole different way. We can reorganize society.
We say this whole system is rotten and illegitimate, and we need and we demand a whole new way to live and a fundamentally different system.
A system without wars for empire. A system without borders.
Check it out, we're going to be coming through with these flyers, not just to tell you about a protest, but to recruit you into a serious fight for the future.
And that fight for the future is right now.
A serious fight to defeat fascism in this country, and a serious fight to get rid of the rot that's at the core of this country.
this whole system.
We are the RevCom Corps for the emancipation of humanity, and we are recruited.
We're not going back. We're marching forward. We're not stopping. Join the movement. Make a donation and get involved.
And clear up the closing doors, please.
Join at the RevComs to find out more information.
Okay, so that was the RevCom Corps for the Emancipation of Humanity all across the country, agitating, stirring things up, organizing, spreading the word about the urgent need to come together to defeat this fascism, and and to do so as part of getting rid of the system that's given rise to this fascism. We are very excited to say that we have met our latest match. So that is, it was $1,092 for the latest $1,000 match, and that's from the medical professional who very generously said if their match was met, they would double down. So that brings us $3,000 closer to our goal here. So we want to move into, okay, I think we want to, there's a statement we want to read. Do you want to read this one at the top?
$30 donor.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So this is somebody who gave $30. They said, "I'm struggling to stay housed, and every dollar counts. But this is different. We must find ways to build and resist together, and not let these forces try to make us wear horse blinders that focus us solely on our own survival. Now is the time to fight together." Thank you so much for that. That's really important.
Yeah.
Horse blinders.
But it's so true, right?
Yeah.
That's, they keep you on a rat race, but we're not rats. We're human beings, and we thank you for your generous donation in difficult conditions, and it matters so much. So thank you for that, and others should, I think, be equally inspired. If you've got more resources than that, give, and if you're in the same position, also give. It's all of our responsibilities to fight to support the forces for revolution. I think we should go into play. This is so yesterday I had the opportunity to interview, you're going to see, we have two different interviews we're going to play in the rest of this live stream. Stay tuned. Keep calling your friends and family. Share this link. Share this live. We're going to go a little bit longer. We've got more to bring you. We want to play an interview I did yesterday with Rafael Cadares, who is a national leader of the RevCom Corps for the Emancipation of Humanity. And in the interview, it opens with a speech he gave right after, you mentioned earlier, after Jimmy Kimmel was fired. Refuse Fascism called a protest outside of outside of ABC. And Rafael spoke for the RevCom Corps for the Emancipation of Humanity in a powerful speech. We want to play that speech from Rafael and then go into an interview. So let's watch that now.
Kimmel stays, Trump must go. Kimmel stays, Trump must go.
Jimmy Kimmel needs to be brought back on air immediately.
Yes, he does.
What we are facing now is not just another bad president. We are facing fascism. And you have someone on Fox News just the other day saying give homeless people lethal injections.
Kill me.
And he is still on the air, but Jimmy Kimmel has been kicked off the air. That tells you everything you need to know about what is happening in this country, and it's deadly serious. And one of the reasons that things happen the way they did in Nazi Germany is because people underestimated Hitler. They looked at him as a clown and as a buffoon. They thought they could control him. And there were too many internal divisions amongst people. Amongst the opposition. The socialists didn't want to work with the communists. We didn't want to work with the liberals. Okay, I am a revolutionary communist. I'm a follower of Bob Avakian. You should come and learn about it. It's not a scary thing. We are talking about a radically different world without oppression, and doing it in a way that does preserve dissent and does protect freedom for the media and free speech. Come and talk to me about it. But wherever you are coming from, we need to come together in this moment. This unprecedented moment requires unprecedented unity in the streets.
Yes!
Yes! How many of you will be there on No King's Day, October 18th? This has to be the biggest No King's Day yet. The last one was 5 or 6 million people. This needs to be 15 million people all over the country. And then on November 5th, come to D.C., a massive political earthquake from below, and we keep going. We come back day after day, week after week, until this fascist regime is gone. We got to do what the German people did not do. Thank you.
So we are thrilled to be welcomed by Rafael Cadares. Rafael's a national leader in the RevCom Corps for the Emancipation of Humanity. We just showed the audience a video of you in the streets in front of ABC protesting the canceling of Jimmy Kimmel's show. Really an important statement. Raf, if you could talk some about what you guys are doing on the ground and why people should donate.
Well, really good to be here, and I really appreciate all the people tuning in and contributing. It really matters to support the work of the RevComs right now. We are throwing in 100% to this fight to stop the Trump fascist regime, to defeat it, to remove this regime from power before it is too late, and things have already gone way too far, which is which is why we were out there yesterday at the Jimmy Kimmel thing. People are being fired. Ships are being blown up in the Caribbean, just murdering people. And it's only going to get much worse unless we stop it. So, and at the same time, we are revolutionary communists. We understand that there is a system of capitalism, imperialism that is at the root of this fascism and so many other atrocities, like the, escalating genocide in Gaza, the destruction of the environment. We also understand that there's a whole better way that the world can be. And all of this is what Bob Avakian brings alive in his social media messages, which we've been discussing. We can talk more about that in a minute, but we've been, really out to the masses in this, in this moment. We've been out at the college campuses. Me personally, I've been out at Columbia University a lot. You can't go into the university right now because they've completely militarized the campus, and they've forbidden speech on that campus. You can't call the genocide that Israel's perpetrating out for what it is. That's verboten speech. We've been on the trains in New York City, on the subways. We've been out in Harlem speaking to people, and across the country, the RevComs have been really taking this out everywhere. So
it's really important. Why don't we play that quick video of you guys on the trains?
The fascist Trump regime must go now.
It must get out. It must get out because it is fascist. It must get out because they are kidnapping people off the street and sending them to a torture prison in El Salvador. And it is ripping up the Constitution right here to take away even the basic rights that people are supposed to have.
Brother, do you want to live in a society like that? Check it out, we're going to be coming through with these flyers, not just to tell you about a protest, but to recruit you into a serious fight for the future. And that fight for the future is right now. A serious fight to defeat fascism in this country, and a serious fight to get rid of the rot that's at the core of this country. This whole system that spawned this thoroughly American, racist, woman-hating, anti-LGBT, science-denying, climate-destroying, migrant-bashing, world-bullying and threatening fascist pig. On the movement, make a donation, and get involved.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Find out about the revolutionary leader Bob Avakian and the vision for a whole new society that we could be living in once we get rid of this oppressive system.
Thank you. Sisters and brothers, get the kill. Don't sleep on this. You gotta act before it's too late.
You get one of these? Here you go.
Join at the RevComs to find out more information. We gotta get rid of this fascist regime because my future and your future depends on it.
So, Raf, you mentioned discussions of the social media messages from Bob Avakian. Why don't you tell us about those?
Well, Bob Avakian has done over 134 messages at this point, digging into, how the system of capitalism, imperialism works, what a strategy for revolution is, and, particularly in the recent period, really diving into the very dire situation we're facing with this fascism, but also really helping people see our way through it, how to navigate through it. What are the vulnerabilities of this system, and what are the vulnerabilities of these fascists that if, there's a rising from below, that, we could change the whole alignment in society and actually force these fascists from power and potentially even create better conditions for a revolution to get this whole system off of our back. So, we've been discussing them. We've had different meetings nationally. We encourage, I really encourage people to DM the RevComs or write into revcom.us if you're interested in being part of these discussions.
Could you talk some about maybe give us a couple examples from these discussions about how people's thinking changes or things that get illuminated differently for people? Are there a couple examples from these discussions that you could bring in for people?
Yeah, well, just on the last discussion, we have, I think it's in message number 134, Bob Avakian actually puts out a call to people to grapple with how would it actually look to drive out the Trump regime? What is the relationship between the divisions that exist within the ruling class itself right now, between Democrats and Republicans? Within the Democrats, even within the Republicans, there are cracks. The Trump regime hasn't fully consolidated everything yet. And Bob Avakian's making the point in that if there was a powerful earthquake from below, that can change and realign things in such a way that the regime could potentially be driven from power. So this is something, I feel like people have a hard time envisioning that, and people have short attention spans. People have a hard time even remembering what happened in 2020 during the George Floyd uprising when, 15 million people took to the street, and all of a sudden you had, politicians offering up all kinds of reforms to try to pacify the people. So, on the last call, I think people were raising like really genuine questions that keep them up at night about how could we actually do this, and, it's true. The Democrats are not doing what needs to be done right now. Some people were raising that. But what if there was an uprising from below? Yes, a nonviolent uprising, but determined. How could that compel, people to grow a backbone? And, Bob Avakian also in his messages, he also explains why the Democrats don't have a backbone to begin with, but also how the power of the people can radically change things. So that was a big one. Another thing that continues to come up on, in these calls is, as I was saying, what is the relationship between the fight that we need to wage for revolution to break people out of the whole framework of the system altogether, right? And bring people a revolutionary communist understanding of things. And the fact that right now we have to, we have to unite really broadly with liberals. On the last call, someone was raising, well, I went to the protest, Indivisible 5051 protest in my town, and there were all these people with waving American flags. So us revolutionary communists, when we look at that American flag, we think of, all the blood that, and oppression and violence and imperialism and war that flag has represented for centuries, right? We need to get to a world without America and everything it stands for. So this person was raising, well, how should I relate to these people? So we talked about, we went back to what Bob Avakian is saying about in these messages about we have to unite with everyone who's against Trump right now. Yes, the people that want to make America what they believe it can and should be, but at the same time, we want to have a discussion and debate with people in the midst of this without, in a way that, Bob Avakian has really emphasized in a principled way. Discussion and debate about where each other stands for, what our political positions are, how all of us understand what's the root of the problem that we're facing, and what kind of vision, beyond Trump would we want to see. That's a really important discussion to, Bob Avakian's emphasizing, a really important discussion to be had in the midst of uniting everyone who can be united to drive out this fascist regime.
Yeah. And in some ways, some of those people waving the flags actually get more the extreme danger of this fascism because it's so different than what they have come to expect and hope. And so, it's interesting and important to hear the struggle against some of the maybe spontaneous narrowness that people get caught up in instead of seeing very widely, our arms open really wide because we are proceeding in the interests of humanity and then on that basis can actually see the best in people and the best in people's aspirations. Thank you so much for joining us, Raphael. People should stay tuned at the RevComs to see you in the streets and on the ground. And like you said, they can check in and sign up at revcom.us/join, and definitely go to revcom.us/donate
to help donate to your efforts and our efforts all across the country. So thank you.
All right, thanks for having me on, and let's make our $30,000 goal.
Okay, so welcome back. That was had a good chance to talk with Rafael Kadaris and show you some of what the RevCom Corps for the Emancipation of Humanity are doing across the country. I want to say it was one other thing about the end of the conversation that Rafael and I had. Right after the election, Bob Avakian made this, put out this social media. Now is not the time for demoralization and despair, and now is the time for righteous anger and revolutionary determination. And he talked there about the fact that there is and has always been two countries within this country. There's the people who celebrate oppression and exploitation, going all the way back to genocide and slavery, and the people who stood against it, and in particular, the 60s people, the decent people, the millions of people who stood up in the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. And there's a basis to unite all of those millions and millions and millions right now up against this fascism, that decent country. And the RevComs, I think, do have, with a lot of struggle, even with each other, but have a lot of broadness of mind to be able to see the potential to unite the people waving the flag and the people who would rather burn that flag, and all of us in the streets together, arm in arm, shoulder to shoulder, while we discuss and debate our differences with a lot of generosity of spirit. Okay, so a financial update. We have $1,080 more to add from donations that have come in. So we right now have $16,671 total. We're getting closer and closer to our $20,000 goal for today's live stream, but we're not there yet. We have some work to do, and to keep us pushing there, we want to announce, just as we were doing this live stream here, somebody in Boston is making a generous $500 donation and saying, okay, I'll give it if you match it. So for everyone tuning in, here's your chance, a third, fourth chance today to have your donation matched. Whether you can give $5, whether you can give $50, it will be matched up to $500. So your donation will have double impact right now. Why don't we just say, I want to say one other thing quickly. We said this earlier, but what are the funds going to? The funds are going to the infrastructure that's necessary to support the RevCom's volunteers nationally and the national projects of the RevComs. And that's being led and anchored by the national tour to get organized for an actual revolution. And that, the website, the national social media, there's people who help run the national campaign to get Bob Avakian's social media reaching millions of people. We've been raising funds for that separately, to go to the advertising, to go to the on-the-ground grassroots effort. But to manage that campaign, the people need social media apps. They need, and the programs to do the fancy videos. We're going to show you a fancy video soon. They need internet access. They need, a place to work from. All of this requires funds, and that's what your funds are going to today. So Michelle, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what the folks are doing here and other places across the country?
Yeah, well, one thing is we've been doing different projects. The RevCom Corps here in LA, we recently had a yard sale where we went very broadly, people felt very responsible and built for what has been actually our biggest yard sale that we've had in the city, where we were able to raise about $2,000. That was our goal for the weekend, and and we went very broadly to people who have been watching us, know about the RevComs, that gave different things, volunteered, different ways, and I think that was kind of an important example of going out very broadly. I think in this moment of what you're speaking to, the millions of decent people in this country going out and asking for them, yes, concretely to give funds, and then with these projects like Aguas Frescas, like Bolis that we did recently, which are like ice pops.
Okay. LA, very LA.
And and giving ingredients for that, like we've done things where We've gone to in front of the grocery stores and we just ask people, can you donate a watermelon? Can you donate a cantaloupe? Can you donate some limes? And then we have volunteers who know how to make the aguas frescas. And then we have volunteers who go out to big events where we sell the aguas frescas. You know, one of these
These are
events,
like fruit-based, delicious waters that you get here.
Yeah. Fresh fruit waters.
That's it.
Drinks. And we've gone to these events that we've basically like sold out and raised about like $500+ at these events, one of which is Ciclavia, which is a big, you know, event here in LA where the city closed down the streets, opens it up for bikes to just go up and down, you know, for miles and miles. And we set up at one of these booths where people, you know, kind of stop, and we just have like our setup there, and we just sell the aguas frescas, and we bring people to the table and get into, you know, these questions of revolution, where these funds are going to. And a lot of people have actually given like even $20 for like for a cup, because they actually know what the funds are going towards, you know. So these kinds of things that involve very broadly, you know, different people to like throw in and contribute, including their ideas, including different people who, you know, like all they do is just bring me the ingredients and I'll make you guys the aguas frescas. You know, we're able to get together, you know, and just make the bolis, you know, the ice pops. We're able to, you know, in different ways, just involve people many different ways. So there's like the ability for people to just contribute to this, you know, and then also where there still also is like the recognition and the struggle that all of this is part of building organization, that all of this is like people really like being able to step into this and really like support this, you know, and not just kind of say thumbs up, I really like you guys, you know, but actually like, you know, are you
put some skin in the game.
Put some skin in the game. And if, you know, all people can do is like donate by, you know, monthly and being able to sustain this, you know, then that really matters, you know, because I think again in this period, being able to go out really broadly, and this has actually become a little bit more of the culture amongst the RevCom core, and it's not, you know, kind of like, oh, the motto or something, but it really is like an important struggle to really get people to think about how, you know, we've been wrestling here locally, like having an organizing center where people can actually find us. Here's a space that we do have that people very broadly know, oh, you guys are over there, you know, we know, we've seen your office. Being able to have that be open to the public, for people to find us, for people to come get materials, for people to get organized. We're having more weekly meetings where we're able to grapple and discuss and get into all these questions that we're getting out even more broadly, and the ability to have people staff it, to have people like, you know, to be able to pay the rent for that space, to be able to pay for the internet for that space, to be able to just like remodel and redecorate and have it be an actual workspace where people can come in and volunteer and make phone calls and send out messages and emails, all of that. We need to be able to like, you know, so we're putting it to people and actually like being able to raise some of these funds, and people get really excited. Oh, a new RevCom core organizing center, you know, that's what we're still working on, you know. So I think like off of all of this, like people are really envisioning and really recognizing, if we have that kind of space, if we have that kind of ability and resources, we would be able to really like expand and really like grow our forces, you know, which when we really do go out there, there really is a lot of like interest and a lot of like hunger to get into all of these questions, you know. Like one other experience very recently was we went out to the Chicano moratorium, you know, which is like you know, every year people get together to like commemorate the Chicano moratorium. And
if you don't know enough about what the Chicano moratorium is, go to revcom.us and you can read a very moving interview with somebody who participated in the Chicano moratorium about what that was like. So another plug for revcom.us.
The website, yeah. And we went out there with the pamphlet from, you know, from Juan Rojo that's titled An Imperialist Parasitic Harvest, Savagely Exploitative and Entrenched, a Contribution on the Historical Roots of the U.S. Domination in Mexico. You know, and the RevCom core, as the core got together one evening and just went through this pamphlet together, and were able to like, you know, grapple and really like get into why is he going into all of this history about the U.S. and its role, you know, and the really like a training ground of like Mexico as like being able to like expand all over the world and go and like put their, you know, their monstrous hands and, you know, and plunder all of that, and people should get into that. Again, revcom.us, read that article from Juan Rojo, which is like really, it's the new communism like being applied, to understand this history, and this, how this imperialism, and the role of like, dominating and plundering Mexico, and so we went out to this to the Chicano moratorium with this pamphlet, and there was a lot of interest, and a lot of like people were really like, wow, so people know some of this history, but to really be able to understand like how, like all of how it actually got us to this point, and most importantly, how we can actually do away with the system that actually like is built on this basis, was like, got people really excited, and so being able to like open up our organizing center and invite people more broadly to come and discuss, this piece, I think all of this is the life of the RevCom core, and is, again, really beginning, but I think like there's a lot more that being able to expand the capacity, being able to sustain the volunteers that are able to do this, like, all the time, and being able to like get, it really does need to be a moment where we're, out all day, taking this out to masses of people and inviting them back into our organizing center, and then for us up all night, and even with masses getting into all these questions, like, that keeps us up at night, and really trying to understand and grapple with why can't you reform this system of capitalism, imperialism? Why is it only that an actual revolution can fundamentally put an end to that system, and what kind of system would replace it, and how we would actually go about, bringing forward, that kind of system that can go to work to put an end to all forms of exploitation and oppression. All of that is like what we're doing, and what we're grappling with, what we're wrestling with, what we're asking questions as we're out all day, and that's what your funds are actually like going to.
I want to say the lot there you presented for people that I think is really important. I want to say two things about what you said. One is, I think the point on the community that's being built up around raising the funds, it just underscores the point that when you're out raising funds, you're also, I mean, it's a stereotypical thing to say, or maybe cliche, but we're not just raising funds, we're raising people. Because you're actually building up people who are increasingly taking responsibility for the future by saying, I'm throwing in the $30 donation from somebody who's nearly homeless, the $2,000 donation from the medical professional. These are people who are saying, I'm throwing in and I'm putting my resources behind a force that can change everything. So that's really important, and then stitching that together in a community of people coming together to meet the needs of the forces for revolution. That's one thing I wanted to say. And two, I just wanted to underscore, when you're talking about having a space for the RevCom core, for the emancipation of humanity to operate, you are talking there too about, look, what people do depends on what they understand, and what they understand is shaped. If it's not shaped by a conscious scientific understanding, it's being shaped by society, the predominant, dominant understanding of society, which is no good. And so we're working to change that. And to yes, there's a lot of things that people understand spontaneously that can be very good, but by itself, it will not go where it needs to go. So we're in the middle of still meeting this $500 donation from somebody in Boston who generously gave. Okay, sorry, messages coming in. So please donate. Please, you feel free to respond to us in the chat of the live stream here if you're tuned in and want to send a message. Somebody from Detroit. Oh, now I lost it. Somebody from Detroit wrote in. They said, "We stand with the oppressed peoples of the world, and we demand a better and more just world." And someone else said, "Please give generously." I think they're talking to you guys watching. Help with the fight against this fascist regime. We can win. We can win with your generous contribution. So please keep sending us your comments. And we should. Well, let me. Oh yeah, you should read that, and then we're going to go to a clip from BA. Yes, okay. Please.
Yeah. So we just wanted to share a short snapshot on raising funds at the Mexican Independence Day Parade in Little Village in Chicago. They said, I took out a donation can and the fundraising flyer in Spanish and English to the Mexican Independence Day Parade in Little Village, Chicago. I collected $45 in cash donations, mainly $1 and $2 from people watching the parade from the sidelines. One person, an activist who joined with Refuse Fascism, the RevComs and Little Village Community Council, an older woman with a shirt that said, "Keep immigrants, deport racists," had come in from the suburbs to be part of the Mexican Independence Day Parade. She looked over the leaflet and asked, "What is the money going for?" I showed her the section on what your contribution supports, and she donated $20. She was planning on going to DC and said, I'm in, I will see you in DC. I mean, I just want to say, just from this, like the Mexican Independence Day parades, you know, especially in Chicago, was seeing headlines that they were being canceled, you know. And so because people are afraid of like all these ICE raids here in LA, some of them got canceled, but some of them like moved forward. And it is like a lot of people really going out there and really hearing this message and then contributing to them is like really, really important, because this is in people's minds, even as they are out in a parade trying to, you know, kind of do your normal, every year you go out and you do the parade in the context of like these fascists.
Not normal.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. In normal times, they go out and they like, they just enjoy their day at a parade. But here in this moment, it is like a heavy thing to be in, like, not a normal situation where literally the people in power are calling you criminal and animal and rapist and all this, and threatening to like, and already terrorizing communities and going after people, that people are out there. And when this message actually gets out there, that people are giving to that, it really matters, you know?
Yeah. So we have $240 toward the $500 match from the people in Boston, or person in Boston. So $260 to go to meet that $500 match. Give $10, give $50, give much, much more. We're aiming to meet this $20,000 before the end of today's live stream. And we've got a lot more to share with you. So we've been going for a little bit, but we've got more to go. So call people you know. We're going to play a couple pretty exciting clips in just a minute. So tell them, if they haven't tuned in yet, they still have a chance to tap into the national movement for an actual revolution. And I just, we are uniting very, very broadly with people from all different perspectives, and in particular from our perspective, fighting for the work of the organization Refuse Fascism. It's a coalition of people from made up of people from different perspectives who are coming together under the single demand that Trump must go now, because in the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America. And it's uniting rhinos and communists and anarchists and Democrats, and all of us coming together right now with the existential stakes of defeating this fascism. And if you want to support right now the forces for revolution, basing ourselves on the new communism developed by the revolutionary leader Bob Avakian, this is where your funds should go, because it matters right now for this force to be able to operate and function in this dire situation. And we've been showing you so far what the funds are going to, how we're on the ground, throwing all into the fight against fascism. But yes, from the perspective of the whole different world that we heard about from Bob Avakian. And I want to, so we talked some about how we are temporarily pausing the regular RNL Revolution Nothing Less show, but we're doing that so that we can double down on impacting things through the social media, on people engaging what's on RevCom.us, and being able to really focus on and drive people to the social media that's coming from Bob Avakian. And if you are not following Bob Avakian on Substack, what are you doing? Follow Bob Avakian on Substack. He's got these incredible messages over the last couple of days, but I want to read the title of one. We didn't watch it because we're here today, but was this fascist rally celebrating Charlie Kirk, and as I said earlier, he was assassinated. He should not. That was a wrong thing. It caused a lot of harm. But in cynically using his murder, these fascists are really trying to go all out to repress all of society, to shut down free speech, to silence and suppress dissent, and to sanctify this open white supremacist. Bob Avakian brings great clarity. He released on his social media a message yesterday, part 1 of a message titled "Truth is Truth, Fascism is Fascism, and Why There is No Version of Charlie Kirk on the Left," part 1. And I think part 2 will be coming out very soon. I'm not going to do it justice. Go to his Substack, listen to it, read it, spread it. So much clarity to understand why we're in the situation we're in. No, the problem, it's not the fascism, is not here because it's a response to the wokeness. Yes, the wokeness was a problem. He gets into that. He talks about the scientific method people need to understand and change the world. And you get trained in that method by engaging Bob Avakian in social media. And one of the things we're doing with this campaign around Avakian social media is making illustrated videos, which can spread even more widely. And if you are somebody with any kind of editing skills, we need you. So volunteer for the national social media team, volunteer to work on and help spread Avakian social media messages. There's a lot that people can do. And we want to play a really beautiful compilation or illustration, that was done of a recent message from Bob Avakian. I want to just update you. We are still working to meet the $500 matching challenge. I can't see what funds what our total is, but it's right now our total is about 16,671 total. That will be 1,000 higher once we meet this $500 challenge. So make a donation and let's watch this beautifully illustrated social media clip from Bob Avakian. That's just especially today the message people need to hear.
Trump MAGA fascists demand a pardon for the racist cop who carried out the blatant and depraved murder of George Floyd. This is Bob Avakian, Revolution, number 127. The deranged fascist lunatic Jack Posobiec ranted to a cheering crowd last December 2024 that, quote,
America will not be made whole until we receive justice for Derek Chauvin.
By justice, he means pardoning Chauvin, who was rightly convicted of cruelly murdering George Floyd. Chauvin is one of a very few cops who have actually been tried and convicted for this kind of blatant racist murder. Even though the police kill at least 1,000 people every year, and the number of black people killed by police since 1960 is more than the thousands who were lynched during the whole time of Jim Crow segregation following the Civil War. As I pointed out in my message number 113, the Trump MAGA fascists would have been on the side of the Confederacy in the Civil War, fighting to maintain and expand slavery. And after the defeat of the Confederacy in the Civil War, these Trump MAGA fascists would have been with the Ku Klux Klan in its repeated lynchings and other terror to reinforce open segregation and brutal discrimination. Just as these fascists say George Floyd deserved to have the life suffocated out of him by the heartless pig Derek Chauvin, and that thousands of other black people murdered by police deserve it too, they would have said that the black people who were lynched for 100 years after the Civil War deserved to be lynched. These MAGA fascists demanding justice for the cold-blooded racist murderer Derek Chauvin today are the direct political descendants of not only the lynch mobs, but also the crowds of white racists who regularly gathered in a carnival-like atmosphere to celebrate these lynchings, to tear off as souvenirs body parts of the lynched black man, and to make postcards of these lynchings, which were sent around the country. On the part of any decent person, there can be no compromise, no living with, and most definitely no active or passive collaborating with these ghoulish racists and the whole Trump MAGA fascist abomination. This fascist regime must go now. And black people have a crucial role in making this happen. acting in the best tradition of black struggle, mobilizing together with others in massive opposition to the overt racism of the Trump fascist regime and all the ways it tramples on basic rights and treats whole groups of people as less than human.
So that was a very powerful social media message from Bob Avakian at Bob Avakian Official, and it was illustrated by a very skilled editor who also works on the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show. And you just like, that message needs to be everywhere right now. You know, who else is so consistently calling out the roots of this fascism in the Confederacy and really challenging, recognizing and challenging Black people to play the role that they need to play right now? Bob Avakian is playing a very unique role in the leadership he's providing, and it needs to spread. But for it to spread, it requires your donations. We are at $451 to the $500 challenge. So we want to know who's going to give the last $49 to meet that match.
Yeah, I mean, I think the people, everything that we've heard so far is, I think, you know, continuing to make the argument for people to, you know, the different voices, the different, you know, people that are actually throwing all in to contribute to this. And as we've been saying, anything from $5 to $500, everything counts, everything matters. You know, people that we've heard from people that have very little means. We've heard from people that have, you know, that are medical professionals that, you know, doubled their $1,000 matching donation. So all of any and all of it, you know, really matters, you know. Even like, you know, we were talking the other day, Annie and I, about like the change jars, the revolutionary change jars. You know, those are the kinds of things that people can be doing, you know, for people that have a lot of people coming over to their houses. You can have flyers that are very accessible. Again, plug for RevCom.us, printing from home your flyers for, you know, what the $30,000 you know, goal by September 30 is for. You could have those flyers at the entrance of your door with a little jar where you can decorate and just say, give whatever change. You know, we always walk around at the end of the day. I know I always do this. You check your pockets, you have like 50 cents, you have like a bunch of little change in there. You just throw it in a donation jar, and you're asking all of your neighbors, everybody that's coming through your house, to like give to that, you know. And all of those things, you're spreading this revolution, and you're asking people to actually give to that. All of that really matters. And so I both am appreciating everything that we've been hearing so far, and also, you know, kind of throwing some ideas out there for people to really like, it's not just a thing where end of live stream that's done for. We have to like actually take everything that we learned from here and actually like scale it on a different level. You know, all of the matching donations, the student from Texas that put forward some money and went out and really like said, okay, can you match what I've donated? You know, we have to be doing that all the time, and all of that has to be going up on the RevCom.us website to spread, you know.
So we have exceeded that $500 donation. So people gave to match it, people over $650. So thank you to people who continue to donate. We are now at $17,322. So we've got a little under $2,700 to raise. $2,700, math skills. A little less than $27,000 left to meet the goal we set out for this live stream to reach $20,000, and that will put us in very good stead to meet the $30,000 goal by September 30th, like you talked about. And really, this is just, I mean, just to be honest, it's not all of what's needed right now, the funds required for the RevCom forces to act in this situation. And I just wanted to say a little bit more briefly, and then I want to, we have more video from the RevCom Corps for the Emancipation of Humanity. I had a chance to interview Noche Diaz and Leo Pargo, who are both in Chicago right now. And but I want to just say one other thing about, you know, how existential the moment is that we're in right now. This fascist regime is hurtling very quickly toward all-out consolidation. The New York Times this morning is announcing Trump is asking the Justice Department to go after his political enemies. They're really aiming to crush their opposites among the ruling powers, and that is a necessary part of the all-out consolidation of fascism. They're trying to classify Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization, a purposefully broad-brushed definition that can involve, a friend of mine said the other day, well, that could mean anyone from an anarchist to Pete Buttigieg. And it's purposefully that broad. It can mean a communist, it can mean anybody they want it to mean. Vance, J.D. Vance says that he wants to classify all trans people as a domestic terrorist group, as a nihilist extremist organization, just by virtue of the fact that you don't identify as the gender you're born in. And they are serious about going all out with this. This is not a joke. So being able to have a force for revolution that's acting in this situation, yes, recognizing scientifically where this fascism comes from, with the leadership in Bob Avakian that has been for decades analyzing the rise of the fascism in this country and sounding the alarm about it for decades, in particular the Christian fascism, and being able to see and navigate all of the complexity required to really unite all who can be united to defeat this fascism, and uniting in particular, taking up the call from our perspective, put out by Refuse Fascism, open to all, for people to amass in Washington, D.C. beginning November 5th. So your funds right now are going to the RevCom volunteers and RevCom projects across the country, anchored and led by the national tour to get organized for an actual revolution to make possible the spreading of this message all across the country. The studio we're in right now, the Wi-Fi we're using, the materials that are necessary, rent for the spaces that you're kind of spaces you're talking about, all that requires funds, and the funding we need requires you, especially right now, holding nothing back, putting it all on the table. Now is the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think even like something like, again, people go to revcom.us, they can see like some of the I noticed the camera wasn't on me. That's why
okay. Okay, keep going now.
Even for something like when people go to the website revcom.us, the first thing that comes up is the declaration, we need and we demand a whole new way to live, a fundamentally different system, for that to be up on walls everywhere, as you're saying, in this moment when all of this is like happening, and yet millions are agonizing and they don't know that a whole different way to live, a fundamentally different system is possible. The volunteers, I know that's a lot that we want to be able to do nationally, is for this declaration to be up everywhere, for people to be deeply engaging it. That's actually like a concentration of like this some key points from the Constitution for the new Socialist Republic in North America, for people to really engage. There's an actual concrete blueprint for a whole different system, and for people to know about it, to engage it, to spread it, to be part of actually going to work to make that real in this rare time. And that's part of building up the forces for revolution. The RevCom cores, we have again revcom.us, new pamphlet from the RevComs to go out and really like mass go on a recruitment campaign to really like bring forward many new members of the RevCom Corps. It lays out very concretely membership responsibilities, what the RevCom Corps for the Emancipation of Humanity are taking responsibility and doing in this moment. All of this is not just for the printing of the materials. Yes, that's very important, and that's a big part of like what your funds are going to be able to spread that, but also the content of like what's in there, and for people to really, like everywhere we're going, it's like, I'm like constantly running into people that are like, yeah, I'm like listening to the social media messages from Bob Avakian, and we're like wielding these pamphlets to go, okay, then you have to join the RevCom Corps for the Emancipation of Humanity. Here's what it means. Here's what we're doing, So all of that is like, it needs to happen. It is happening, and it needs to be able to expand that ability way more than what we're like able to do right now, with much more resources to be able to sustain volunteers, to be able to sustain kind of our ability and expand our ability to be able to do that.
So we are at $17,822. A little over $2,000 is needed to reach our $20,000 goal. So we're very close, people. people who have given generously. We thank you. Now's the time to keep giving. You brought up, I think it's a very good segue. I want to go into, this is a lengthy interview that I did with Noche Diaz, who's a national spokesperson for the RevCom Corps for the Emancipation of Humanity, and Leo Pargo, who's a leader of the Chicago chapter. And I had the chance to talk with them about the work on the ground in Chicago, the use of that pamphlet you're talking about. So this opens with I'm trying to remember what the video is. It opens with a video and then goes into the interview with Noche and Leo. So while you're watching this, it's about 10 or 11, 12 minutes. Keep giving. This is a special chance to hear people who are taking this up, spreading it in the kind of at one of the epicenters of fascist attack and significantly resistance. So keep giving, call people to give. We're going to watch that, and we're going to come back in studio. So let's go.
They're trying to bring the National Guard here to Chicago, and we here in Chicago are saying no to that. We don't want them here.
Danger, danger, there's a fascist in the White House. Danger, danger, there's a fascist in the White House. It's up to us to drive them out. It's up to us to drive them out.
We say no to the troops coming. Brothers and sisters, time to wake up from this nightmare. Trump must go now.
It's time to stand up for our rights. In the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America.
We're blowing the whistle. We're kicking ICE out of our neighborhood. We're showing resistance against ICE, resistance against the National Guard, resistance against this fascist administration. We don't want them here. We don't need them here. We're going to protect our vulnerable members of our community.
Fuera ICE! Fuera ICE!
Los latinos, los inmigrantes indocumentados son los primeros que han sufrido este fascismo de Trump. Y no es que decir que el fascismo viene, el fascismo está aquí. Y si esperamos más, no vamos a poder sacarlo.
I had somebody that come to me and say, oh, you know, the black people, we're going to sit this one out. We're not going to march. We're going to let the whites, it's their time to fight back. But this is not just the white people. This is a fight for humanity. A fight for humanity, for a better life. We need and we demand a fundamentally better system.
So we got to get this president out of office as quick as possible. November 5th in D.C. Because we, the people, have the power. Not those fascist assholes in the White House and not those fascist assholes in Washington.
Empezando el día 5 de noviembre en DC y no parar, y repito, no parar hasta el día que Trump y todo el régimen fascista se vaya para siempre.
Be there, November the 5th. Don't stop fighting till the mega fascist is out of the White House. Power to the people.
Power to the people.
DC, November the 5th. Surrounding the White House. Come and join us. Peace.
Danger, danger, there's a fascist in the White House. It's up to us to drive them out.
So I am thrilled to welcome to our fundraising live stream, Noche Diaz and Leo Pargo. As I said in the intro, Noche is a national leader of the RevCom Corps for the Emancipation of Humanity. Leo is a leader of the Chicago chapter. And welcome. We're in the midst of raising $30,000 by September 30th.
Good to be here, Annie.
So we are raising funds for RevCom volunteers and for RevCom projects on the ground, leading people all across the country. Why don't you guys talk some about what have you been doing in Chicago in the midst of this? You know, it's been an epicenter of fascist assault and also some important resistance.
Yeah, I mean we've been out places like South Shore, where the organizing center is, places like Little Village, which is a predominantly Latino and immigrant community, and kind of all over, getting out to people with the need to flood DC November 5th. Truly massive protest that's called for, and truly, unprecedented times. And particularly the work is focused on going after a lot of the divide and conquer schemes that people have been playing into, for some time now, and working with people like, the Little Village Community Council on going out on patrols at like 5 and 6 in the morning.
What's the little village? What's the significance of little village, Leo?
Yeah, the significance of little villages, it's like a commercial district, but it's predominantly Latino and immigrant. That's one of the places that has been hit really hard by the increase in ICE rates here in Chicago, and it has created scarcity in the amount of people actually out in the neighborhood there. So we've been going out. It's part of where we go out to every Wednesday for these like 15-minute noise demonstrations. But people have been so responsive there, from us getting out the whistles, and know your rights cards earlier in the year. But people have been so responsive that we're not even just out there for 15 minutes. We're out there for an hour, and people will come up, join us. They bring their kids to make noise and to actually rally people together and show people in the neighborhood that there are people who are standing up, for immigrants' rights and lives right now, as they are, being targeted by this ICE Gestapo and this Trump MAGA fascism, and that's been really important and crucial, but also going at this like black and brown divide, right? Which here on the South Side is stark in terms of actually needing to struggle with people, to stand up for people other than just themselves or their family, and not worrying about it because it hasn't come to their doorstep yet, and making that connection up with the Little Village Community Council, because there's a ton of unity, in terms of like where people are being affected because of what this regime is doing and has been doing since inauguration earlier this year, but the need to actually struggle with people to actually break with the divide and conquer that people have been falling into, and actually bring forward that there is a whole other way that we could be living, that isn't about, just me, myself, and just trying to like make it through, but something that's actually, fit, to actually meet the needs of masses of people here and around the world. So that's some of what we've been doing here on the ground.
So I think Leo spoke very well about some of what we've been doing, and I do want to just convey to the audience that it makes such a difference to be able to have volunteers who can then open this center here in Chicago that has now become like target and sort of a focal point of the national plan of this fascist regime to take over city after city with National Guards or surges of ICE and federal agents. And even just before Trump started talking about Chicago, we were beginning to build for and host this program about why is Trump doing what he's doing in DC, and then talking about spreading, his deployment of National Guards and federal agents to places like Chicago, like Baltimore, like New York, et cetera. And why is it that Bob Avakian is talking about why Black people need to be among the front ranks in the fight to defeat Trump MAGA fascism? And the ability to host programs like that and pull people together to discuss these things, to work on, these arguments that are being made from, these Black MAGA people who have now been given a microphone, a megaphone by Trump, and to bring out a counter and an answer to that from the decent people, and to go to work with other voices and other forces and voices who have begun to speak out in the wake of that in better ways now. But, again, pulling all that together and directing it towards the fight to defeat this Trump MAGA fascism through mass, determined, nonviolent, but serious, disruptive, non-compliant mobilization, culminating in November 5th in DC. And I think the video that we have to share with you guys is a good example of what was able to come together and come forth through that. And then following that up with discussing some of the other social media messages that Bob Avakian has come out with that are really hammering at and speaking to the key questions of the day, and orienting and guiding people to understand not just the danger of what we're facing, but what we need to be doing both now to meet this immediate danger and defeat this consolidation of fascism, but also teaching people and modeling for people the method of how we work as emancipators of humanity and think about the whole thing, about problem solution what the possibilities that exist in the time we're in now to fight for a whole different way to live in a fundamentally different system. This is what we're doing at this center. This is what we've been doing with people. And the last thing I'll say, just to give some more color to what Leo was talking about, some of these efforts in Little Village, but also in other neighborhoods, in the aftermath of Trump's threats against Chicago, the week before the Independence Day celebrations and parades for Mexican independence, there's usually big major festivals that also happened the week before, and those were very, very quiet and small compared to years past. But there was also something else going on, which was that in those parades, all of a sudden everybody had whistles, and you saw on the mainstream news coverage people doing little teach-ins about how to use the whistles and how to stand up for each other and stand together with each other. And it did start to change the character of things. And then the actual major parade was still a little smaller than previous years, but was marked with more defiance and courage of people stepping out and making a point of stepping out. And again, this shows, the potential that I think we've been talking about, this whole effort to raise these funds, both in this time to both defeat this fascism and to build a force for revolution. And that's not going to happen without people backing up the people who are going out there and doing this work, joining us, but also supporting, funding, and financing the work that we're doing.
Thank you so much, Noche. That was really well said. I'd just like to ask you guys, is there anything else you want to say to our viewers about why they should give and what time it is?
Yes. We are on a mission to organize the forces for revolution and to recruit people into the revolution. We've been getting out the pamphlet here in Chicago. This needs to go out all across the country. People need to know that there is an alternative to not only the putrid culture that people have been forced to live in and to live with, but to also be able to raise their sights to see that there is something better and radically different. There's a constitution for a new socialist republic in North America that is actually aimed at putting an end to exploitation and oppression of all kinds, and people need to know about this revolution and the revolutionary leader, Bob Avakian. So we've been getting this out in places like South Shore, all across Chicago so far, in some very beginning ways, but it is not enough. Funds need to be raised to get the dispatches from Bob Avakian and this message of this radically different world that we could have if the millions of people who are being called on right now to flood DC, keep going and to raise their sights to actually take up the fight for an emancipatory world in society. So give generously, give even more. Look, if you've donated before, now is a time where the future is actually at stake. And what kind of world we have, what kind of future we have and pass down to future generations depends on how millions of people are acting and what they're thinking and how they feel deep in their hearts and in their bones that they don't want to live this way. Now is the time to actually get this out in front of millions of people.
Thank you guys so much. And we'll see you in the streets. So that was great to have Noche Diaz and Leo Pargo with us talking about the situation on the ground in Chicago, what they're doing, what your funds are supporting in terms of this force for revolution for real.
Yeah. So we are still at $17,822. Give. We're
so
very close. Very close to today's goal, which again, we have to keep going and actually continue to take to another level what we did here today.
Yeah. I just want to say, okay, so we're going to a little bit more on, we talked about different kinds of fundraising. And I also want to say, if you want to put on the chat, we've got energy left. If you want to put on the chat questions you've encountered when you've asked people for donations, we will do our best to speak to them. I think we've got some good collective experience here. So draw on the strengths we have and put questions you've encountered in terms of when you've gone to ask people to make a contribution. Because this is part of the point is, this is both a fundraising live stream to get us to $20,000, and it's a launch for the next $10,000. And, you know, Michelle, you talked about the kind of culture that has to exist among the RevCom forces nationally, a culture of raising funds, which is a culture of organizing, because those two things are synonymous or need to be. So in terms of the broad fundraising, can we cue up those pictures from the Hollywood Bowl? Okay, so I want to read a little report snapshot that came from RevComs in Los Angeles. They've been taking the campaign to get Bob Avakian social media reaching everywhere. And they've been taking it in particular over the summer to the Hollywood Bowl. They've gone to a bunch of concerts there, and they went out to the Neil Young concert. That's what these pictures are from. Over the summer, a team has distributed 4,000 pamphlets of Bob Avakian's social media, Trump MAGA fascism, defeating it before it's too late. And they've been taking them to the Hollywood Bowl at a range of musical events and concerts. And the team has raised $2,500 to pay for the printing of these pamphlets during these outings. This was a particularly animated crowd at Neil Young that night, for good reason. And more people took photos of the 8-foot banner than ever. The banner features the title of a social media message from Bob Avakian. They went on to say, because we've been doing this here and all over the city, we've had people say they've been seeing us all over. And here it matters to find our audience with a broad vision, not just reaching out to people you think would be more political. That's always wrong, but especially now with these intense and fast-moving events, we need to reach widely. And the pamphlet they're talking about is a pamphlet that was compiled from the Bob Avakian Institute. If you want to order those pamphlets, go to info@thebobavakianinstitute.org. And you can order those pamphlets in bulk and make a donation to printing those. And then, but part of the point is they were also raising funds for this campaign. So that's to share that. Okay, so now, do you want to read that other statement we got which came in? This one here.
This one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Oh, sure. I hadn't seen that one. We are going to play that other statement. We're just not there yet. Okay.
Okay, so this is right. Just to make
I
sure.
was thinking that.
Okay. So speaking of Chicago, there was a $10 donation from somebody who says, "Hey, I'm a comrade in Chicago, and the reason I'm giving is because it is important what we put out there, that there is no other leader like Bob Avakian." So thank you for that contribution. Very to the point, with a lot of heart and to the point of why people are giving, to be putting out there, that there really is no other leader like Bob Avakian. And we put a lot of content behind that too. We lead people to, as you're saying, giving people the pamphlets, driving them to the social media to engage directly with the leadership and the content of Bob Avakian and what he's fighting for.
Do you want to read that one too?
Yes. So, and then there's a $5 from a student who saw the live stream in Revolution Books Berkeley and contributed.
So they just gave, right now.
That's great. Thank you, and shout out to the student. And they said, "I am contributing because I had the opportunity to take action instead of doing nothing and looking at social media only. It's not enough to just be aware." So thank you for that. And yeah, I think that's an important way to put it, right? Having had the opportunity to take, to take action instead of just looking at all of this and, here's what it means, when we've been saying through the live stream of like, when we ask people to really like put something behind it and not just kind of like, thank you, I agree, but like, okay, give some funds and actually be part of, contributing to expand our ability to reach out even more broader, to reach out to many people who right now are agonizing, who need to know that there is a whole different way that we could live and what's actually required to seize on that in this moment.
Okay, so we want to play a 1 minute, I think a short, I don't know how long it is, a short video that came in earlier today from somebody who's calling on you also to donate. So let's watch that from Chicago.
Hey everybody, my name is Baltasar Enriquez. I'm the president of the Little Village Community Council, and I really want to send a shout out to the RevCons who has been very supportive of Little Village and of our community here. We appreciate everything they've done. We know that there's a lot of cost to this, so that's why we're asking to come and support the fundraiser, support the RevCons in any way, any form, shape. We have been working together since Adam Toledo, which is now 4 years, and it's been great learning from the RevCons. We love what they do. We love their courage. We love that they're wild, they're crazy like us, and that's why we get along very well. But the point is to support the RevCons. There's a lot of cost to these type of campaigns. There's people that spend their gas. The whistles were expensive, printing the material, and also, we have to eat. So some of these people are doing this 24/7. So this is what they're asking for is not much. They deserve to donate $1 million because they do a lot of work that other organizations won't do. They sacrifice themselves, getting up at 6 in the morning. When Trump won in his inauguration, we were here at 5 in the morning. It was brutally cold, and they were out here supporting Little Village, which is a big Mexican neighborhood in Chicago, and that's why you gotta support the RevCons because.
So thank you for sending in that video. It's true, their RevComs are up very early when they need to be.
Yeah. So we want to share now with people a very moving $500 challenge that just came in the comments on the live stream. They say, I offer a $500 challenge in honor of my patients. They are undocumented immigrants. They have HIV and are in the LGBTQ community. They are terrified and hopeless as targets under this horrific system. I'm a mental health professional. And then they say, BA and the RevComs are the only hope we have for the liberation of oppressed people here and around the world. So thank you so much for that. And let's meet that match. I think that's really important. And he's doing it in the name of his patients, They are doing it in the name of their patients. So this is a really moving statement. Thank you so much for that. And let's get on the phone and let's call on people, share that statement with people and let them know that this is what, in honor of this person's patients, they want to give to, as they say, BA and the RevComs that are the only hope we have for the liberation of oppressed people here and around the world. And that is not hype. This actual reality that there really is, as BA has said, in his recent social media messages, that it is humanity's only hope. And the recognition of even kind of putting it to other people, humanity's only hope to be able to stop this horror of what we're facing is if all the decent of millions of people across this country, rise up in mass sustained nonviolent resistance to demand that this regime be driven from power. And that is going to require everybody. That is going to require, the RevComs and others being in the midst of all this with other people from very different perspectives, fighting for the actual, fighting to not allow this fascist regime to foreclose the future for humanity. So that those are actually the stakes of this. And so, this is a really moving statement and we thank you for it. And so I think people this should be a real easy one, to really call around and text around and email your friends and family and your coworkers and your neighbors and everybody to meet this challenge.
So we are at $18,520. So a little over $1,400 to meet our $20,000 goal. So give generously, give now. I just think about that medical professional, and you just think about what this fascist regime is doing. I mean, they're gonna get us all killed with polio with the way they're destroying vaccine accessibility. They're shutting down. I mean, it's just insanity. They're shutting down the entire infrastructure of cancer research in this country. The anti-science lunacy is literally going to get millions of people killed here in the U.S. and around the world. I mean, think about most people around the world want vaccine coverage and they can't get it. And the regime, the way in which, and because of the lopsided imperialist nature of the world, the US has actually been a source of vaccine accessibility, begrudgingly, often and for the most part, but still that's being shut down and foreclosed. And it just underscores there is no living with this fascism, and being able to recognize the stakes of that is something that millions and millions and millions of people need to see. And the RevComs have a unique role in continuing to sound the alarm about what we're really facing and what the stakes are, and doing so from the perspective of recognizing that we don't have to live this way. There's a whole different way the world can be. To show people some of the, okay, so that is a new matching donation. So thank you again, to the medical professional for that moving statement. And if people meet that $500 match, that will get us very close to our $20,000 goal. So if you give now, and that statement is on the YouTube chat. So go to the chat, copy paste that statement, text it to 5 friends, say, hey, we're in the middle of meeting this match right here, right now, donate. So we want to take the opportunity, we've been talking some about the RevCom social media, how its role in projecting Bob Avakian's work, its role in projecting the forces for revolution. Also, its role, it has a unique role to play in the kind of agitation and analysis that we bring in a unique and important way. And we want to play a social media message from Lenny Wolf, who is a voice of the RevComs online. His videos have gone viral a number of times, and he advocates for Bob Avakian's work and the whole new communism. And he did a video on the illegitimacy of the Supreme Court. And I don't know if people watch the RevComs on our social media. This was spread and seen by hundreds of thousands. Is that accurate? Across platform, that was seen by hundreds of thousands of people, and there was a clarity in what Lenny Wolf broke down for people that there was clearly a hunger for, and it spread pretty widely and was shared pretty widely and appreciated pretty widely. So this is the kind of thing we want to do much more of, hot on the heels in real time. So we're going to play that social media from Lenny Wolf.
The Supreme Court is a rogue court, a blunt instrument of Trump MAGA fascism. It's become totally illegitimate, and as such, it must not be respected. Here's 3 reasons why. First, in June 2024, this rogue court granted presidents lifetime immunity for any acts committed in the execution of their duties. This kind of power had never before been envisioned in U.S. constitutional law. Right away, this meant that Trump would not have to face trial for his criminal acts in attempting to steal the 2020 election, including the insurrection of January 6, 2021. It was a get-out-of-free-jail card for Trump and a huge boost just months before the election. But it was far worse than that. One of the 3 dissenting justices, Sonia Sotomayor, said this: "The President of the United States is the most powerful person in the country and possibly the world. When he uses his official powers in any way under the majority's reasoning, he now will be insulated from criminal prosecution. Orders the Navy's SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival? Immune. Organizes a military coup to hold on to power? Immune. Takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon? Immune, 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 immune." John Roberts, head of this rogue court, did not deny or even address Sotomayor's point in his rebuttal. So next time you hear Trump threaten to prosecute and even execute his political opponents, remember Sotomayor's argument. 2, this rogue Supreme Court has continually blocked and sabotaged the efforts of lower courts to hold Trump accountable to the Constitution. Take birthright citizenship, which guarantees that all children born here, including children of immigrants, are automatically citizens. It's part of the Constitution. It's an amendment that came out of the Civil War. You want to change that, Trump? You got to amend the Constitution. Oh, that's too complicated, you say. So I'll just issue one of my bogus executive orders. Right. Here I want to turn to Bob Avakian in his social media message 126, more on why only the sustained, determined action of the decent people can be relied upon to defeat and remove the Trump fascist regime. He goes very deeply into this case and its implications, and I want to urge everyone to get into this. As BA outlines, quote,
Number of lower court judges quickly put a stop to this, citing the obvious fact that this executive order violates the Constitution. So the Trump regime appealed to the Supreme Court, not asking the court to rule now on the merits of this, whether his executive order itself is in violation of the Constitution, but instead to rule that lower court judges cannot issue decisions that apply to the whole country, nationwide injunctions. Such nationwide injunctions have been issued many times over the years, and they are especially necessary to stop the government from violating fundamental rights, such as the right to citizenship.
But the fascist court gave Trump just what he wanted, exactly what he wanted, and invented whole new rules to do it. Again, I want you to go listen to BA's social media message 126 to get into the guts of this very important decision. 3, you can read even more proof at this week's issue of RevCom.us on how the fascist court hands down some of its most important decisions in midnight shadow dockets when the rogue majority rarely explains its reasoning and where overwhelmingly it rules in favor of Trump, how they stole 2 of their seats, and how some of them had outrageous conflicts of interest when they ruled to stop the prosecution of Trump, when they ruled in effect to stop the prosecution of Trump for January 6th. Conflicts of interest like Clarence Thomas's wife being an activist in the whole Stop the Steal movement and in January 6th itself. But the point is this. This Supreme Court has, through its own actions, made itself illegitimate. This Supreme Court will not save the country. It will not defend the Constitution, and it will not save any of us. The only thing we have to rely on in confronting this fascist threat is ourselves acting together. Be part of millions in D.C. on November 5th to demand the fall of the Trump fascist regime. Be there day after day, night after night, non-violently but determinedly confronting this regime. And when we're there, let's surround this illegitimate fascist court, along with the White House and Congress, chanting, the Trump fascist regime must go now.
Okay, so that kind of clarity from our dear comrade Lenny Wolf is something really that stands out from the RevComs, that kind of sharp acuity and recognition that fascism is always illegitimate, but even on the terms of this system, it's illegitimate, and being able to break down why. And that is the kind of social media that needs to be spreading all throughout society, fighting for Bob Avakian's analysis and understanding and vision. We are still working to make the $500 match from that inspiring statement from the medical professional. So donate, and we are pretty close, but not there yet, to our $20,000 goal.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'll say about like the kind of social media presence where it's like in real time, we're just able to just kind of respond to what's happening, you know, like in real time, you know, our ability to be able to kind of like, you know, make these videos, give people like some real-time leadership to understanding big things. Like we said earlier, every day there's like something new, and people being able to understand it, people being able to act on it, people being able to spread, you know, this analysis. I think, you know, just like we heard, you know, on this question of the Supreme Court, when a lot of people are still kind of, you know,
clinging,
you know, desperately clinging on to these institutions that just very blatantly, in your face, they're telling you how it is fascist, and even taking all of that with real concrete evidence and real, exposure and understanding of like why we can't actually rely on the Supreme Court to deal with this fascism, and I think those are the kinds of, that's both what your funds are going to, and it also, our ability to be able to like in real time just speak to these kinds of, things on our social media platforms, on our website, is we have
go ahead.
We have just reached $650 to make the $500 match. And so our total right now is $19,670. We're so close to our $20,000 goal for the live stream today.
Okay, so $330 more to go to reach $20,000. So give. And I want to say, look, we're talking a lot about your funds are going to the RevCom forces, the RevCom volunteers, RevCom projects across the country, anchored by the national tour to get organized for an actual revolution, for the national infrastructure to spread this revolution, the materials that are necessary, the flyers, the banners, the posters, the kind of online presence, which requires funds, whether it be hosting sites, whether it be, the professional version of this or that app so that you can make fast videos. And all of this requires funds. It requires hosting and more. It requires lights and electricity and Wi-Fi. This studio, rent, all of this requires funds, and the funds requires you. So if you're somebody who's just finding out about the RevComs, the revolutionary communists who base themselves on the new communism developed by Bob Avakian, if you're just finding out about this and learning about it, well, why should you give? You should give because this is about the future of humanity. You should give because you care about what this system is doing to the people of the world. I watched a video this morning of the children in Gaza. Do you know whose bombs are going to tear off the limbs of the children in Gaza right now? American bombs. American bombs with the full backing of Trump fascism, who says that Nazi has full license. Just a day after the ground invasion began in Gaza, what did the fascist Trump do? He invited Nazi to a visit to the White House. That's how he gives backing to the genocidal apartheid state of Israel. So the forces for revolution are serious about getting rid of the system that is fueling this genocide, which is the system of U.S. capitalism, imperialism. And right now, this genocide is on steroids because of Trump fascism. So you should give because you want to see a better world without wars for empire. You should give because you want to understand why these wars for empire keep going and going and going. And no, it's not the Israeli lobby. And no, it's not it's not the Jewish lobby. It is U.S. capitalism, imperialism, which is, yes, funded and supported by the entire ruling class of this system. And in particular, this genocide, like I said, is on steroids because of Trump MAGA fascism. So you should give because you want to see a better world. You should give because you don't want to see the destruction of our planet from this system. You should give because you want to donate to a force that is acting with the interests of the people of the world in our eyes, in our sights, and constantly going back to not what's in the interest of the people of America, not is what in the interest of this or that section of people, but what's in the interest of the whole world. That's why you should give. And you should give because you're finding out that there's a way out. So that's why you should donate and give generously. And we're very close. $330 to reach our $20,000 goal just for today. And that's going to launch us for 10 more days to reach the $30,000 goal.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I think is really important is like this thing of like the broad masses of people that are out there right now, that in everything from the genocide in Palestine that people are like have been seeing for what, like 2 years now, like that literally in the palm of their hands, and where that situation is at now is just so horrific, and people like really care, and there is kind of a way that so many people just end up thinking that there's nothing they can do about it, and so I think the really reaching out very broadly, this is not just like something for just RevComs, or people that, whatever. It needs to go to people that haven't even heard about the RevComs. That is actually both the things of, where you went earlier, right? And in this live stream of like, you're not just raising funds, but you're raising people. You're going out and you're like actually introducing people to like, look, there actually is a whole different way to live. There is a force that is working like tirelessly day and night, like going to work on how we're actually going to break through on this. And there's a lot of guidance, there's a lot of leadership that Bob Avakian is giving in these social media messages, and we're actually like, we're going to work to like apply all of that into reality as things are moving and changing, as we're like running up against obstacles, as we're going out everywhere in all, through all sections of people, and the questions that are coming back that we're trying to understand. Okay, what are we running up against? How do we go out and speak to these questions? As you're talking, and reminded me the other day we were out at a campus and somebody's like ferociously arguing, but it's APAC, it's not, it's not a system, it's APAC, it's like, and they're so convinced that that's the reason why we're in this situation, and they wouldn't even confront that, like, here we are facing fascism. They're so kind of like lost within this and just kind of saying, yeah, but they're all the same, Democrats and Republicans and blah, 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 okay, these people think that. So like, we have to actually understand that, and we have to go out and really like wage some struggle with people to understand why is this happening, and again, RevCom.us gives a lot of guidance and like a lot of analysis of like where all of this comes from, going even way back. Recently, I went back to like the first social media messages from Bob Avakian, numbers 1 through 11. That gives a lot of like, there's so much in there, and just basics of why is the United States backing Israel in this genocide. Very basic, kind of going back to those questions. Why are we in a rare time when revolution becomes more possible? What are the conditions, required for revolution, and how we're in the situation that we're in today? Are we actually working on all of that? There's like a lot in these, and that's even the 1 through 11 is made into like these pamphlets that you could just take out, and real basics, like here's what you need to know around basic things of what's going on. Who is this leader? From number 1, you get a sense of who is Bob Avakian. You're introducing people to
someone who's going to tell you the truth, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. So that's what your funds are going to. That's what people need to actually like know. And again, for our audience and for everybody here, taking everything that we've learned today is, yes, there's a lot of people that really are prepared to give a lot of funds, and that's really important, and that really matters. And all of those people that are prepared to give those funds have to, yes, continue to give those funds, but also go out very broadly to very brand new audiences that we haven't even like tapped in.
So we are really close, guys. You've stayed with us for 3 hours. We're thrilled to have been able to spend this time together. We're almost to our $20,000 goal, and we're going to stay here till we meet that goal because it really matters. $330 left. Give. I just want to say a couple other things. Look, one of the things that people have had the opportunity to experience if you've watched the RNL Revolution Nothing Less show every week is you've watched these longer segments from the interviews with Bob Avakian, like we watched earlier today on internationalism and the socialist transition to communism. It's incredible. It's a visionary leadership. So those kinds of longer segments will be featured on Bob Avakian's social media every week, and then that will be featured at the RevComs and on RevCom.us. And I think it really matters when you're talking about the deeper understanding and analysis of what does it mean to say it's capitalism, imperialism? No, the problem's not the CEOs. What he says, Bob Avakian says in those interviews from January of this year, they're not all, they're all no good, and they're not all the same. Well, what does that mean? And how do we understand the differences among the rulers of this system that have provided the extreme danger we're in, but also the potential to defeat this fascism? And like you said, the fact that it's a rare time when revolution is more possible. So all of that you're going to be getting every week. Go to RevCom.us. Especially follow Bob Avakian on social media, his audio messages on Substack, on YouTube, on Telegram. Promote the fact that he's on Telegram, and on RevCom.us. So I don't have an update yet. I thought I might. Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to say was we did on RevCom.us this week, we're going to be featuring posters that you can be getting up to spread at Bob Avakian Official. And people should go to RevCom.us, download those. Your funds are going to had materials to spread across the country. The design, the volunteers who are making those posters, getting them up on RevCom, distributing this, all of that requires funds. But go to revcom.us and download those posters. And look, this is controversial, okay? Bob Avakian is loved by people who want to see a whole different world, who really care about the people of the world. He's also hated, and he's hated for the same reason, because he's about the most radical revolution in the history of all humanity, the revolution to uproot and end all exploitation and oppression. And there are people who want to stand on the sidelines and snark and divide and conquer. And especially right now, we cannot give in to that kind of divide and conquer. We have to fight against it. And if you are a person of principle, and we should challenge people of principle to actually look into what Avakian is really saying and engage the content of his work and go up against the snark and the gossip culture that so lowers people's sights and gets them demoralized and down and fighting each other for crumbs that this system throws at people. No, we're about a whole different world. So that's real, and that's part of what that's part of what the RevComs on social media are going to be doing, is really fighting for Bob Avakian's work, contending with his leadership up against all the lowered sights and low dreams and divide and conquer and refusal to confront what we're really facing. So that's also some of what your funds are going to, is that kind of contention and contestation. So we're going to have a new update for you very soon. We are getting closer and closer to our goal, but we don't have an update yet, so stay with us.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is, so on, again, our website, people will be able to see some of these, like, statements, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is my
Oh, yes, I forgot to say that. Thank you.
So people will be able to kind of look back on some of their statements, learn a lot from kind of like overall, like the different statements that have been coming in through the course of this live stream, to be able to spread it, to be able to use them and going out to this brand new audience that we're talking about, wielding the flyer for this $30,000 campaign. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, two things. One is, and if we read a shorter version of your statement, we're going to post the whole longer version on revcom.us. Then we have a statement we came in, like somebody who had already given that we didn't read. This is $1,000 that was given earlier last week, and they did it as a match, and the match was met. But we wanted to read their statement here. They said, to everyone, this is from somebody from Cleveland. They said, to everyone disgusted at the mess this country and the world are in, the endless wars, the racism, the patriarchy, I pledge to donate $1,000 to this drive. And they did it as a match, which was met. And they said, why? Why are they giving this? The disgusting foul wind of fascism sweeping the globe and the U.S., the starvation, the genocide, all of the things that make the blood of thinking people boil. But there is a way out of this. There's a revolutionary leader named Bob Avakian. He's written the Constitution for the new socialist republic in North America. People can read that at revcom.us. He's been a force for change since the early 60s. He's worked closely with the Black Panther Party and the anti-war movements. He's not a blowhard politician, but a steadfast leader. Sorry, I hadn't read that before. There's currently a campaign to get his voice out broadly as we carry on the fight against fascism and many battles on the horizon. I give proudly in the hopes we can spread his message far and wide.
And we just went over our $20,000 goal with a few donations that just came in now.
So this is perfect. We're at $20,200. So we thank you with today on 2020 Vision with $20,200. 2020 Vision.
2020 Vision. Okay.
Okay. She doesn't like my joke.
So I think, again, people should take all of this. This is a really important, point to bring us to the end of this live stream, because everything that has come in, from the statements to the different contributions to, again, people getting on the phone, texting, spreading it, etc. Take that. Let's all of that. We just did all of this as collective. We all did it together nationally, right? So let's take all of that and take it to a whole nother level collectively by September 30th and beyond. Because this kind of thing has to go on even more, and there's still donations that are coming in. We really appreciate all of that. We, thank you. And we have to take it, again, to a whole nother level.
Yeah. So look, we have a historic fight on our hands. We have urgently to work to do to really call forward millions and millions and millions, uniting all who can be united. People who've never heard of the RevComs, people who've have to be in the streets very soon. October 18th is No King's Day. There need to be millions of people, bigger than the first No King's Day. The revolutionary message has to reach it. The message of uniting all who can be united to defeat fascism, building towards November 5th, which is called by refusefascism.org, a coalition involving people from different perspectives, which we are fully in support of and putting our shoulders into to make November 5th the biggest mass mobilization in the nation's capital, in the history of this country, with the mission of driving this fascist regime from power, which is our only hope. And any hope for a better future has to go through the fight to defeat this fascism. So we have to push for much more to exceed the $30,000 goal by September 30th. So give, reach widely. And while we do this, people need to know about the revolutionary leadership we have in Bob Avakian, who's brought forward a framework for human emancipation to get all the way free. So we don't have to be sitting here agitating about genocide and patriarchy and wars and climate devastation. So we can get to a world that humanity would want to live in, where there'll be a lot of problems that we're going to face, but problems we want to face in the process of uprooting and ending exploitation and oppression for real. So it's been a joy to be here with you, Michelle.
Yeah, it's always a joy to be here with Annie on studio, with everybody, the whole crew, and also with people watching from the RevCom core organizing centers to the bookstores to people watching at home, hosting your own watch parties, or just you watching by yourself at home. It's been a pleasure, and thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you to the crew who's made this happen, and on to $30,000 and on to a whole new world. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Buenas noches.